Just said it. See how it looks, dude. Get 4 frames. Alright, so far so good. Let me turn the volume up on our music. Restart the music.
The music is tight.
The music is tight, dude. We are good, dude. You are live. The internet can totally see you now. Okay. Sweet. Alexander, what's up, man? We'll just chill for a second, let it fill. Got some Coronas for our chat today. Os Januku Choco Puko. Hey, what's up, dude? That's one hell of a name, man. Alright, I'm gonna announce it right now. Bobo the Smrad, what's up, dude? How's the music sounding for you guys watching? Is the music alright? Connor's in the house. Def Camp and Melderon, what's up, guys? Thanks for supporting. How's the music sounding for those of you guys watching? Is it too loud? Kind of sounds loud to me, but maybe it's alright. Yo, we can talk, guys, by the way. We can talk. North Gale? How you feeling today, North? You just waking up?
Oh, dude. Yeah, I was supposed to AM game with a couple of the boys, do some Scalo spam, but I woke up late. I had an alarm, like I had my late alarm set for 1, so.
Nice, man.
Yeah, I still haven't had my coffee yet. It's too hot. But
Too hot?
I'm actually pretty well rested. I'm
That's
feeling
great.
good.
That's great. For those of you just tuning in, we're just going to give it a minute to fill a little bit, and then we're going to get started. This is going to be the first PvP workshop we're doing. We're just going to be dudes talking about PvP, so we'll see what happens, and then we'll do some Q&A with you guys, and that'll be it for today. Just give it a minute. What's up, everybody on Twitch? Thanks for tuning in. If you guys have questions, like PvP questions, start writing them down or something, and then you can tweet at me and I'll read them off a little bit later. We'll do the Q&A portion towards the end, but start thinking about your juiciest questions. Yo, I just realized T Muggsy has a conjured mana water thing on his water cooler behind him.
You
It's
like
fucking
that?
hilarious, dude. That is awesome, man.
Yeah, I just said if he's going to sleep or leave the room for 15 minutes, it's gone, man.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I gotta reprint another sheet out. It disappears. Can you link me the stream where we all are at? Cause I'm looking at Cargo's stream right now. I don't see it.
Cargo's Gaming?
That's what it
There's
is on
web
Twitch.
streams.
I'm mainly on YouTube, but there's Twitch, yeah, there's as well. Let me link it to you. I'll put it in the chat. It's
Mainly on YouTube, Dan's Game.
Dan's game, dude.
That's the move though, really.
Let me
Nah,
go,
dude, Twitch is BIS, brother.
Oh man. All right, I put it in the chat. What's up, everybody? Tuning in right now. Bam in the house. 3's PvP in world. What's the best 3 classes to run around? Is 3, dude? These are some juicy questions. Save them till the end, Bam. We got you covered, man. You should get huge discussions on Discord about BIS lists for each class during each stage. All right, all right. Lots of PvP content coming on the horizon. It's kind of an untapped, you know, piece of the pie. So, Raven in the house. What's up, man? How you guys doing today? What is it, Thursday? We're almost there. We almost there. Healomania just hit me with the Twitch Prime, dude. Thank you so much, Healomania. Appreciate you, man. D-Rel in the house. What's up, Twitch? How y'all doing today? All right, give it one more minute. I'll stop being boring. One more minute and we'll get started. We got about 100 people on YouTube. We got, you know, 14 in Twitch. So just give it one more minute and we'll get into it. I'm excited, guys. This could go disaster. This could be a disaster. You never know, man. This is my first time doing anything like this. I'm just full transparency, dude. This stream could get jacked up at some point. So, we're just gonna give it a go.
It's gonna get weird in here, boy.
It's gonna get
I
weird.
think it looks looking pretty prime right now.
It's looking prime. That's good, dude. I'm glad I got the real streamer's endorsement on this. That's good. Is this a Cataclysm soundtrack? Oh, dude, sorry. That's blasphemy, I guess. But you know,
Not I guess. It's for sure blasphemy.
for sure
brother.
blasphemy. Muggsy
Get
on
some
board.
fucking Elwyn Forest in here. Get some, or at the very worst, throw some Totems of the Grizzlemaw in. That's the only non-vanilla or BC soundtrack that I can support. Is fucking Totems of the Grizzlemaw.
All
Grizzly
right.
Hills, best music ever made in WoW.
I do like
I'll
Grizzly
never
Hills,
turn the
dude.
music on.
Grizzly Hills is some good music. All right, guys. We got a good amount of people in here. We're going to kick it off now. Again, I have never done anything like this, but I'm really excited to start doing stuff like this. We got the boys in here today. We got Takanashi. Say hi, Taka.
What's up, guys?
We got Serana in the house.
Hey.
We got Big North in the house,
Yo, what's good, boys?
aka the young gnome mage god. We got T Muggsy in the house.
What's up, boys?
And that's it for today. So we're just dudes talking about PvP. If you guys got questions, write them down. We'll do a Q&A at the beginning, towards the end. But pretty much we're just gonna go over the broad strokes of PvP, and we're gonna start chipping away at the you know, the colossal amount of PvP content out there in classic WoW. So we got a little PowerPoint. As you guys know, I'm a PowerPoint gamer. So I will let's get started. We're gonna go over the agenda. So the agenda for today's discussion, we're going to do the intros. We'll talk about, you know, what classes we like to play, our experience with WoW. We're going to do kind of a rank 14 PvP system overview. We'll talk about, you know, how the honor system works, you know, rating, things like that. We'll talk about a little bit about the patches, the PvP patches, and what changed throughout the different patch progression with respect to PvP. We'll go into faction balance. We'll overview the classes and talk about, you know, maybe some of the class matchups, stuff like that. We'll tap into some world PvP, battlegrounds, items, and consumables. This is a lot to cover, so we may not cover any of it. We may cover all of it. It's just a surprise at the end of the day. So let us begin. Let's start off with introductions, man. So we'll start off with Serana, even though this okay, I gotta put never mind. Egregious isn't here, but it's all right. Serana, kick it off, man. Why don't you introduce yourself to the chat?
Hey, yeah, my alias is Serana. I'm from Germany actually, and my history of WoW is going back to classic WoW back in the day, when I was really, really young. And last years I'm playing on different private servers, starting from Nostalrius, where I ranked my rogue up to rank 14. After that, I ranked my mage on Lightbringer, the follow-up server, to 13, and now on Northdale, I'm pretty much chilled on the PvE side of things with my rogue. So yeah, and I can, well, I hope I can deliver some useful information today for you guys.
What a legend, dude. Rank 14. Holy crap, guys. PogChamp. We got a rank 14 gamer in the house today. Taka, hit us with the intro, man.
Well, I think I'm most famous for being the only rank 13 and 99% warrior on Astarius. but yeah, Astarius actually shut down right the week before. But yeah, my WoW experience is that I started to play when it launched in Europe. And I kept on playing until the end of Wrath or start of Cataclysm. I try to, you know, start over again from time to time, but yeah, I mean, Classic is where it's at, and I've been playing private servers since Phoenix, maybe 6-7 years ago. Or
Since
something.
Phoenix, wow, damn.
And I mean, I just love the game, the social aspects, and yeah, I can't wait to just catch up again and continue where we all left off in Classic.
Hell yeah. So also, where are you guys from? Serrano, where are you from, man?
I'm from Germany.
Germany, okay. And Taka.
Sweden's in the house. but,
Sweden in the house. We got Sweden, we got Germany. I'm from the United States of America, as you guys know, so we got a diverse bunch here. Yo, T-Mugs, hit him with the intro, man.
All right, I'm from the U.S. Obviously. Played on
Obviously.
Lightbringer. Played a UD mage on Lightbringer. Got to rank 10. Nothing real crazy, just best for PvE, you know. On Northdale, I started to take a little bit more serious. I'm playing a troll mage. I am the guild leader of a guild called Dogs. You might have heard of it.
Serious troll mage, by the way.
Serious troll mage. I've been, you know, I do a lot of world PvP, so I've done a lot of Ngoro Crater stuff. I absolutely love world PvP. Love it way more than the BG scene. So rank 10 is the highest rank I've been, just because that grind is too gnarly for me. I'd rather be PvPing in the world, and I enjoy guild leading more, and that takes up a lot of time as well. So my forte is going to be the world PvP with the mage. But I love getting groups together, gathering people, maybe going to raid Stormwind. Always Horde, by the way. Always Horde.
Always.
Always Horde. Never played a lot. Never,
Scuffed mages on
Connor spamming dog shit in the chat, dude. You troll. It's funny, man. Yo, so you're a Jersey boy though, right? You Jersey or Florida? You're Florida now, right?
I'm actually from New York originally, from the Bronx.
Oh yeah, from New York,
And,
from the Bronx. That's right.
Yeah, and now I live in Florida. Me and North actually don't live too far away from each other.
That's crazy, dude. Two sick mages, both from Florida, man. And they're you know they got a little bit of a rivalry, but you know they're buds at the end of the day. And all right, let's pass it off to North now. Let's pass it off to North. What's up, North?
Well, that's good, people. Actually, like Serrana, I started in vanilla like very early on. I was 8 years old when I started playing WoW when I made the switch from EQ2 because my family played a bunch of MMOs together. It was weird and culty, but it was fun. I was a rogue back in the day, and I was dog shit because I was 8 years old. But I re-rolled on Chronos 2, so I'm one of the new wave boys. I started on K2. I played a mage, loved it to death. Was 1 week away from rank 13 on my first server, and then I quit for school, which sucked. But went back on Northdale after rolling a lock on Lightbringer and ranked 13. I think I'm gonna rank the second mage that I just hit 60 on Northdale with to either 13 or 14. We'll see. But yeah, I'm relatively speaking, I'm a new boy, but I'm really fucking serious about mage. I want to be fucking amazing. I'm pretty good as it is now, but looking forward to getting better.
Awesome, dude. And so actually, Taka has a stream too. Serrana, do you have a stream?
I don't stream regularly. Just I don't know. I streamed with my mage when I was ranking, but now that I'm only PvEing, not really. So I have one, yes, but it's not active.
Okay, gotcha. Well, freaking T-Mugs and North are streaming all the time. I think we lost your camera there, North. You might have to reload it. I think it'll be better. All right, so I'll intro myself to you guys. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cargos. I'm the resident scrub of the group. I obtained the very prestigious rank 8 back in OG Vanilla. It's and I'm kind of a big deal for doing that. So pretty much, I guess other PvP experience. I've PvP'd throughout retail for whatever that's worth. I've gotten 2200 in 3s, in 5s, in 2s. I got 2K in 2s, and you know, I'm a student of the game, so I have a lot to learn, and I'm really excited to you know, just absorb some knowledge from these guys. So we got some pretty good players in the house. So you know, definitely, you know, big round of applause for me in the chat for you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. So what is next? Let's see here. All right, so I guess the first talking point is going to be the rank 14 PvP system. Maybe we can start with just your guys' thoughts on the rank 14 PvP system. We can talk a little bit about how it works, and then what are you guys' thoughts on it? So let's start there. Does anybody want to volunteer to kind of explain the broad strokes of the rank 14 PvP system, how honor works, how rating works, stuff like that?
Maybe I can start.
Okay.
So my personal opinion for the ranking system is because I know there are two opinions out there. Either you have much time, no job, no family, no girlfriend, and so on, and do this. And the second opinion is like you need a lot of skill and gameplay knowledge to acquire the strength. And obviously, I have experienced both sides of my own. So there are actually people who are doing both approaches and get to their goal. My side of those things were a little bit like spend much time, yes, but also try to be good at it, at least. So I don't know. My opponents have to tell me what I think about my gameplay, obviously. But I think the grind is something you need to commit to. There's nothing like I might make it or I might make it. I might fail at it. You have to commit. Obviously, it's a really hard grind. Maybe the hardest grind in the game. I don't know. Besides Scarab Lord, and yeah,
It's got to be the hardest. Yeah, it's got to be the hardest in the game. What do you guys think, chat? You guys think it's the hardest grind in the game? I think it probably. I mean, it's got to be, dude. To get rank 14. So I'll attempt in my noob wisdom to explain the rank 14 PvP system, just for the people who may not be super familiar with how PvP works in vanilla in general. So there are 14 ranks. Actually, there was 15 for one time, like for a second, right? They had the city protector in there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They never actually implemented.
Yeah, I never got implanted.
Okay. Well, that was on the Wikipedia page. So anyway.
Yeah, it was an unused rank.
Okay, so
but they were planning it now.
There's 14 ranks, right? So it starts off on the Alliance. You have your own set of your own like specific names. You got Private, Corporal, Sergeant, Master Sergeant, Sergeant Major, Knight, Knight Lieutenant, so on and so forth. Horde, you got Scout, Grunt, Sergeant, Senior Sergeant, First Sergeant, so on and so forth. And pretty much every week you need to get 20 honor kills, right? 20 honor kills to at least be on the map. There's a 20% decay, so you accumulate these honor points, right? And your goal is to stack up as many honor points as possible, and then each week, upon the reset, your points will kind of be evaluated, and you'll either rank up or rank down. And there's a 20% decay on your points every week. Now, does that decay start at a certain rank? Because I don't think the people, or maybe it's just less impactful for the lower ranks.
No, it doesn't. It starts all the time. It's just
starts all the time. Okay.
Low on, right? Like you accumulate a set of like. As you accumulate points, it's not like you get X amount per week and it decays that amount that you got. It decays the total amount. So as you get to rank 14, right, it's because it's 5,000 per rank, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's 5,000 per rank, RP per rank. You get 20% decay. So as you get like to 14, it's not exactly 5,000 times 14 because the first few ranks are a jank amount of RP. They're not, fully 5,000, but it's essentially from, I think it's rank 3 on, it's 5,000 each time. But as you get up and up and up, it becomes that you can barely combat with the highest amount of gain per week. As standing 1, you can barely combat the decay to actually progress through the rank.
So the decay becomes more and more severe kind of as you go up and up the ranks, right? It becomes
exactly,
harder.
Which is why...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes harder and harder to outpace it.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the PvP on the rank 14 PvP system, North? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it's an appropriate, level of a grind, or?
I think it's pretty sort of emblematic of vanilla. So and that's both good and bad. There are really good and bad things about like the way that you approach vanilla, right? It doesn't reward skill at the end of the day more than it rewards time. It does reward skill, right? So people who say, oh, it's only about a time sink, right? You can look at every server and consistently, and I think the other people on the panel would agree with this, you can see that the people who do the best have to spend far less time and will get that rank faster. But that's the thing. After those, the first generations of rankers, the good rankers, the ones who want it first for the prestige, for the power that those items give you, right? After those, say 2 generations, 3 generations later, after a lot of people have hit rank 14 already or tried and failed, it becomes a lot sort of more just about the time sink because you're not actively competing with other people. It's just like, can you spend X amount of hours in the battleground, right? That's sort of just the nature of vanilla. It is a grind, right? It doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't reward skill in a lot of places, but it does in others. So I really think that it's just sort of the vanilla feeling of we don't reward everyone for everything. Not everyone should be able to do every single aspect of the game, and this one is, very sort of representative of that. Not everyone will be able to rank just because of the raw time commitment. not everyone will be able to rank because they can't find the group together for it. In the same way that a lot of people won't be able to raid, a lot of people won't be able to get to AQ, Nax, because getting that group of people together, getting them prepared, is actually difficult. The amount of time that you have to spend, I think, is obviously more for a rank 14 grind, right? But while it has its failings in being a grind, I think it's a good thing. At the end of the day, I think that it is representative of this, immense.
Rate it out of 10, given the ultimate vanilla experience. If you had to rate it out of 10, just in super, and usually things that's maybe not a great way to rate things like this, but if you had to,
I'd give it an 8 out of 10. But
Okay.
like, it's a very masochistic thing, right? Like, if anyone like I started streaming actually while I was doing my rank grind. Like, I started streaming very briefly at the beginning of launch on Northdale. But then I was just so sleep deprived the whole time that I wasn't talking. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to start streaming here. And I started streaming my rank grind. And there were times when like I was like on the verge of tears, like because someone broke brackets, or like I was like I'd been up for 34 hours straight because the Chinese were pushing brackets, and I needed my rank that week, or I got kicked out of the pre-made because I raged to someone, and then I had to spend like an extra like 40 hours that week just grinding. So it was like, it is a very emotional, crazy thing at times. Again, not for everyone. I live off highs and lows though, so I really like it. I am sort of a masochist in that way. So like, as much as it was like a painful, emotional experience for me, I still really did enjoy it, both here and on Chronos too.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
It has its flaws. It certainly does. But for the people who really want to like pour themselves into a game, not that that's a good thing for everyone. It really is not. But it allows that, and I think that that's a very cool and weird and like vanilla thing.
All right. What do you think, Taka? What are your thoughts on the rank 14 PvP system? Do you enjoy it? Do you think it's painful?
Well, I mean, it's widely discussed, like North said, and I feel like there was a lot of pain involved. But at the end of the day, it's one of the beautiful things regarding vanilla, and it's PvP, right? But you can look at it in a different way and not call it PvP, because it's just one side of vanilla gaming, right? And I have to say that in my days as a PvPer, I have met the most amazing people in the game, and whatever grinds or tears that almost fell down my cheeks, the memories are just amazing. And if I could recommend anything in the vanilla, it would be to take that journey and just see where it leads you. And for me, ranking and the life of a ranker is 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10. Wow. Takanashi is a good-looking man. I'd second that, Jordy B. He's a good-looking dude.
I think that actually is I think that's a really good point though that he picked up on that I didn't really discuss. It is like part like so crucial in vanilla, like the people you meet along the way, like doing random bullshit. Like you have to spend so much time with these people if you're actually going to rank to like 13, 14. That like you do like I have like plenty of friendships, that I still like, people I still talk to from Chronos 2 that I ranked with pretty regularly, that are people that I ranked with. So I think that is a very unique part of
So
why
would you guys say
cool.
doing pre-mates together, is it the type of thing where it's that band of brothers, like you really get close with people? Do you think that develops relationships a lot?
Depends on the pre-made, but typically, yes.
It's the best, man.
I mean-
It's the best.
Yeah,
Would you say so more than a raid group? So your BG brothers, your pre-made, does that bring you closer, the dynamic of that, as opposed to raiding? What do you think?
Well, I certainly think so, because it's less amount of people, right? So you get to know each other way more, and you play like 16 hours a day, and you really start to get to know each other privately, even.
Yeah.
And you always find together again. Like, is it in PvE afterwards in a guild or something else, or on a fresh server, and you start the same pre-made again because you can rely on those people. It's a great
it's
friendship.
like we had this discussion a couple of times, and one of the things that I really want to get out there is the fact that once you take this journey, it's like you said, you know, this band of brothers, right? If you haven't done it, you can never understand how close you get to the people that you sit for 16 hours a day. And I mean, you share stories that you can never imagine. You know, you get to know them personally. You share their emotions, their day-to-day struggles, and I mean, like they say, I can just, you know, start a conversation with someone that I haven't talked to in 1 year, and they're still like, "Holy shit, man, how you doing, man? Oh my God, so nice to hear from you," and blah blah blah. Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
yeah.
That's awesome, man. I mean, it's all about community, right, boys? That's most of us play vanilla for. So, I mean, the idea that this brings you closer together than anything else in the game is very appealing to me, I have to say. Now, let's pass it over to T-Mugsy, dude. T-Mugsy, man, how do you feel about the rank 14 PvP system, dude? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you agree with what people are saying so far?
I'm fully gonna play the opposite opinion here. I think you guys are romanticizing this way too much.
Oh, shit, okay.
I actually think that the system, I mean, I think North even agrees with me on this. A lot of the system doesn't take very much skill at all. I've heard you say it before, being a rank 13 mage or being a rank 14
I just said it now.
does not mean it takes skill. But I will say what does take skill, and it's part of vanilla WoW, is working with other people, and that is a real thing. Like let's talk about bracket 1 groups. Like I know Apes had the first like rank 14 bracket 1 group, and dude, those guys have been playing together forever, and they have a really, really tight system, and the game's almost too easy for them because how well they work together. And that I can appreciate, and that's a skill on its own, is being able to work as a group and work with that fluidity. I think further down the line, man, when I ranked to 10, I was in one of the rank 1 bracket 1 teams on Horde in like a late BWL patch, which is not the time to rank. People will say, oh, that's bullshit time to rank, blah blah. But half the people I was playing with were Chinese, or weren't even speaking, or weren't even talking. And I mean, mostly we just outplayed other teams just by being more organized and using consumables and things of that nature. When it comes to like retail arena versus BG ranking, I'm gonna have to say arena takes way more skill. And I can even say things like World PvP and then Goro Crater. I see way more skill, way more outplaying, way more just big IQ moves being made in World PvP than I've ever seen in BGs. But then again, I haven't ranked to 13 or 14. I've only ranked to 10, and I haven't really experienced it. But it didn't really draw me in, and it didn't really make me want to do it.
So what would you rate? What would you rate it out of 10? So you're going low, like what? 2 out of 10, something like that? 3 out of 10?
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna give it like a 6 out of 10. I think there can be improvements, but I know nobody wants changes or anything like that, so I'm not gonna even advocate for that. And it's not my zone where I have a ton of fun in. I'm just gonna say my opinion here is I don't think it really encompasses all the skill and all this romanticized attitude people are putting into it. Yeah, you make some friends. But you can make a lot of friends doing other things too in vanilla WoW. Vanilla WoW is all about meeting people and being social. The ranking system is not the only place for it. And for that, I don't think it should take 3 months of sitting at your computer nonstop 16 hours a day to get gear that's a lot of people get for PvE actually. Like a lot of PvE,
it doesn't take 3 months. It doesn't take 3 months nonstop. It takes like a month and a half nonstop. You can rank slow up. Like these are the misconceptions about the ranking system though. I don't think anyone here, I don't think Saran, I don't think Takanashi, and certainly I don't remember myself saying that it takes a ton of skill, right? At the end of the day, right, like you will get it, like you can solo queue to rank 14 if you spend enormous amounts of time, but typically speaking, right, when you have those actual good groups, people will do it not for the PvE gear, they'll do it for the PvP prestige, which I think is the correct way to do it, and they'll also do it for the fun of it. I remember, like even though the pre-made that I rolled with on Northdale lost almost every single one of its games against Apes, right? Like we had some close ones. We were within 10 points for 4 games, right? Like when we were actually actively competing and not just losing every game, when we were actually really, really trying our hardest, and we had these fucking nail biter Arathi Basin games where it was, it was down to Zeratu's, clutch fucking, 3v1 CC chain with sap blind into a fucking magic dust rocket helmet on the first target, into a mage blinking in and capping, and we barely lose 1990 to 2000. Those games are so rare, yes, and they're so hard to actually accomplish because you have to have consume after consume after consume on every single person, or else you essentially automatically lose. But when you get those games, when you get that actual high caliber play, agreed, it's rare. It's fucking rare, but those displays are fucking insane, and I will never forget that game.
Yo, let me get a question for you guys. This might be useful to people watching right now. If you're kind of a casual gamer, right? Let's say you can play, and this is casual. I don't know if this is even casual compared to other games, but let's say you can put in let's say you can put in 2 hours a day to PvP, right? 3 hours a day to PvP. What rank can you realistically expect to obtain? And what should you go for, you think?
Probably rank 10.
Yeah, I would say 10 is the limit.
Yeah.
10?
10, you might push to 11 if you've got like a week off of work. You can try really hard to push to 11 so you can get that fancy mount. It'll take a little bit more time to get to 11, but yeah, but 2 hours a day, you could get up 11 eventually.
2 hours a day.
10 more easily.
What do you think, Taka? You think 10 is good for people that have 2 hours a day to PvP?
Yeah, I mean, I know guys that got rank 12 really slow, so it's not a cool journey, but it's definitely possible to do. But yeah, rank 10 is probably more realistic.
Rank 10.
But,
Okay.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I can see the you know what he's talking about, Maxi, with the arenas has definite other sides of you know what I mean. I was doing BGs and you know on the highest level, and I was also a gladiator, and I was high rank in 2s and 3s and 5s, but in you know, all the way to Wrath of Lich King last season. But I mean, what you have to realize is that BG is not arenas, you know, and the beautiful thing about the BGs, right, is that you can be creative in ways that you can't be in arenas. So you just have to realize that it's different ways to PvP and play, and you can have more fun because you have more actual, you know, creative ways to play in BGs than you have in arenas, and just, you know, do your thing. And if you want to play with 10 mages, you can do that, right? You can't do that in arenas. It's very strict and very, very, you know.
Okay.
So if I could reply to that real quick, so I can agree with North. There definitely are games where you're going to have these really tight, close games, and it is really fun. The issue is 90% of the games you're going to have, or even more, are going to be if you're a good pre-made. You're going to be 5 capping. You're going to be wiping teams in less than 5 minutes, and you're just going to be bulldozing through teams and trying to make that honor cap. To me, that doesn't really seem like fun. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to see some type of RBG type thing in vanilla WoW, which I know everyone hates changes, but like with RBGs, you would get more of those games, more of those fun, like clinching, like crazy games where you're playing against people at the same level as you, versus a pre-made that's organized using consumables versus a bunch of randoms who are just going to get fucking run over.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree with you. That's. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but
you're good.
You're totally right, man. It's like the grind begins when you're farming pucks, right? Or worse, pre-mates. The really important thing you have to do as a pre-mate is face the opposite faction, good pre-mate, win a few times again to make them roll over, and after that it's just grinding the 5 caps out of it. So it's not really fun at this point because you basically are your brain AFK. Just everyone does the same every game until you face the next pre-mate and break them. That's the hardest thing to do, and that's where people say it's just a grind. But obviously, if you have like on Nostyrus, we had situations where you had to cap on 1.8 million honor a week, and if you don't have the skill and just put time in the game, you won't reach this cap because you just don't have enough time to reach the cap while playing. You have to win games.
Yeah, because you're just not winning fast enough, and it becomes an issue. It's a game of math at that point.
Now, what rank is that
agree.
though? Is that 10? Is that what rank 11, 12, 13, 14? When does that start becoming a thing?
I mean, it's the entire time, but obviously it's more important to those ranks. Like rank 11, 12, 13, 14 is the other biggest decay, and you need to make these honor caps. Otherwise, you're gonna fuck yourself and add more.
So the way it works in terms of brackets, right, is that like there are brackets of players, and like essentially the 2 brackets, really the 3 brackets, I guess, that matter are bracket 1, 2, and 3. Around rank, which are like, you know, the 3 groups of players that get a certain amount of points, right? If you stack those brackets, they get more points, but we don't have to go into stack. But like in those brackets, right, like which is just based on how high your honor is, at around 11, I think actually late into 12, bracket 3 barely gives anything. You can still get to rank 12, and I think actually rank 13 theoretically with bracket 3, but it doesn't actually, like, you'd have to spend like it's something stupid like 90 something weeks to get from rank 12 to rank 13.
That's nothing. Come on.
It's nothing.
So like it is mathematically possible, but it's practically impossible. Like it technically is theoretically possible to get, like, if you were ranked standing 1 every single week, you could get to rank 15. It would take you 90 something weeks, and it's only if you get like per decimal RP, which no one's really sure if that exists because it's, you know, private server calculations at this point. No one has actually done that math on retail, but essentially once you get to rank 12 and you want to get to rank 13, you can't be in a lower level of honor. You will get outclassed. Like if you don't get to bracket 2, you won't get progress. You cannot get to 13 basically without it. And then once you get to 13, you can't get to 14 unless you're in bracket 1, which is essentially standing 1. You have to be the highest honor essentially to make any progress. So that's the gateway, right? Like and so you won't reach your 14. You know, you can still get your 10 even if you're not hitting the 1.8 million, right? But you won't get your 14 without the 1.8 million, and you might not get your 13 without the 1.8 million.
All right, guys.
In those situations.
Well, that's good. I like how we have a lot of diversity of opinions here, Team Muggsy. It's really awesome that you have a different perspective on things, dude. It keeps it so it's not just, you know, a circle jerk. We're actually, you know, we're making some.
I'll always be your devil's advocate.
I love that, dude. I love that. So with regard to PvP patch progression, this is something we were talking about just before we turned on the stream. So apparently there's going to be no honor system right as classic releases. How is that going to affect things, guys? Does anyone have any thoughts on that if there's no honor right off the bat? I know you have some thoughts on this, North, because we talked about this before for like 1 second.
I have a lot of thoughts, but why don't we get other people with their opinions first?
Okay, yeah, let's hear. Maybe, yeah.
Okay, so I just know from the fresh releases on the private servers that like really the tryhard guys going from day 1. It's like it's really easy to rank or gain ranks in the start of a fresh server, because while you're leveling there are no bracket caps, right? So it's free for all basically. You do the best you can to rank up, because if you are in higher standings you still get the same amount of RP on lower levels, so you obviously have a faster rank progression until Battlegrounds release. If you don't have any honor system at the beginning of the game in Classic, that would be a major impact on the community, because everyone is can chilled, be chilled 60, right? Farm their prebis, gear up, and then farm a whole lot of consumables over weeks maybe until the honor system releases, and then everyone goes just full out on everything
So do you think it's a bad idea to not have honor system, or do you think it's a good idea to have what they're doing?
I think it's a bad idea. It should release from the start. Maybe not with Battlegrounds, that's not the important thing, but the honor system should be in from the day 1.
I'm gonna go ahead and vehemently disagree with you. And here's why. I think that new meta, right? I think we've seen the same thing on every private server, right? So far we've seen more or less the honor system is released, you know, at the start, and people are doing these weird things to get to 60 first, right? I think the game itself, right, like WoW, vanilla WoW, I think it was not made to be treated in the way that the honor system is currently treating it on launch, right? So people have this grind from the beginning. They're not going into dungeons to, you know, and focusing on getting their prebis first. You know, they might, you know, go for some pieces immediately, right? Like I've been part of that, you know, like that initial, you know, like try and get the good shit early, you know, gank early in STV to get your, you know, early bracket 1s, shit like that. But it first of all, it punishes levelers. So it does really punish levelers, because my strategy is completely changed if there's no honor system on release. I was gonna go rush to 35, try and get a title charm, and then go systematically just try and murder every single person in Stranglethorn, right? And like, regardless of whether or not you think that's like good or not, like that's what I needed to do for, you know, like for high, like, you know, honor, right? And this is going to let it so that people can go slower, right? They don't need to actually go so fast at the beginning. It doesn't invalidate that dungeon gear right away. I can't just get a rank 7 in 2 and 3 weeks and be like, oh, well, you know, screw Hands of Power. I don't need Hands of Power from LBRS. I don't need to do these dungeons. I have my rank gear already, right? on top of that, it allows people to actually, stockpile consume, so it's not this issue, right, when actually BG's launch. It's not, oh, you're just facing a bunch of random shitters who don't have consumes because they, didn't have time to reach 60. They're just fresh 60. They've had time to reach 60. They've had time to gather these consumes. They've had time to prepare to make a group. So I think we'll actually see a more competitive system. No, we won't have our honor gears early, but I think that's actually important because you actually make the earlier gear sets, the T1 shit, for instance, initially.
So
that
you
will
like
be
it?
important now. That was never important.
You think it's a good call? You think it's a good call?
The idea of it. I like the idea of it. I think that they could do it incorrectly. If they release it the way that they're planning on releasing it specifically, and this is getting down into the nitty gritty, if they release it with BWL, I think that's a little stupid. I think they should release it on its own thing. And
Have we seen a private
server?
server? Have we seen a private server with no honor system upon launch? Is there any kind of case study here, or no? Is this just?
I
like
don't
a
think
total?
a major one. No.
Okay. Taka, do you have any
Only
thoughts on that?
without
Maybe do you like it?
battlegrounds.
The idea of the honor system in at the beginning, or do you what do you think about it?
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with Sorano, but I also see North Point, and I just have to say that so far we only discussed like 2 things, right? And already everyone is disagreeing, and it's just amazing. I like this panel just for everyone is fucking disagreeing, and that's what's really good about this thing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, there's no point having 5 people when everyone is having the same opinion.
Agree. It's not just a
So,
circle jerk. It's actually more interesting this
yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
already feel the hate. I just want to roll the other side and keep killing you.
Yo, so T Muggsy, you're Horde, right? North, you're Alliance.
I'm Horde. Yeah.
Okay, so
That's why I hate Muggsy so much.
are you the only Alliance
That'll
here?
be real.
No, are you the only Alliance here, North? think so.
My rogue was Alliance at
Oh,
start,
your rogue was
so
Alliance.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, I got you. All
Doesn't
right.
sound like a true dog in blue, to be honest. Sounds like you're a faker there, Serrana.
Oh man.
I'm just going with whatever is helpful to me,
Horde sympathizer.
So what do you guys think? How do you think it's gonna work in Classic with War? So we're looking at patch 1.5. We have Warsong Gulch and AV. Patch 1.6 Battle Masters with the updated PvP rewards, and 1.7 the AB release. How do you think is it just gonna come as one big package?
Hard to say. I think newcomers cannot relate why one BG would release much later than the others. I like the way it was, and hopefully is, because I personally like Warsong way more than AB, because in AB you actually have to think a little bit, right? In Warsong you just do the same shit over and again, and AV is okay. It's different on every private server, so it's hard to say. Nerfed and pre-nerfed version of AV, but it's basically PvE. You just rush from A to B and do this. So not really counting as an active battleground for me. So I like the way they did it in the progression back then, and I hope to see this in the future as well.
Okay. All right, cool, man. So let's move on to the next point. We got faction balance. What do you guys think about the balancing of the factions? Horde versus Alliance racials, the battleground layout, world PvP, all that stuff. Do you guys have any initial... What does your gut tell you as far as faction balance is concerned?
I'll jump in here. Biggest issue I see is Paladins, to be real. It makes such a difference in the beginning of the game. Like, just even like team fighting in the world PvP is absolutely... I mean, it feels so unbalanced with Paladins. Like, it changes the whole scope of things. I don't know if North plays
Alliance. Master race.
Let's be real. I mean, it's really hard to say, man. Like, it's such an advantage for Alliance early game with Paladins. I know it balances out more once Shamans get more gear. They hit way harder. It's it becomes different. But Wind Fury takes a bit over a little bit more in PvP. There's just no way to purge a bubble, So that's 10 seconds of free healing basically. It makes a huge difference. I can't really talk as much on BGs as I can in World PvP. Just having Paladins, absolutely, it almost feels unfair. Like, I mean, it is unfair. Like,
And actually, like, coming from this as a mage, really, like, in the perspective of battlegrounds, right? Like, like the difference between my first mage on vanilla was a gnome, and I felt completely like an unstoppable CC god. And then I roll a Horde Mage, and I'm like, you know what? Hey guys, I'm gonna queue up for a game of Wrathy Basin, and I'm gonna go CC healers. And I throw a sheep on a Paladin, and I'm like, well, he's got Blessing of Sacrifice up. I can't sheep him. So I'm like, okay, I'll wait for Blessing of Sacrifice to go down. I'll CS his heals. Oh, improved Aura of Concentration. He resists my CS. Oh, no worries. I'll sheep him afterwards. He bubbles. He's free for 12 seconds. It is very, very strong. So Team Muxie's picking up on a good point, but I do think that's an early game focus. Paladins are very, very strong, and I think that actually the bigger problem with Paladins, it's not that they're too strong. It's that they're really easy to execute. Right, so when you have this win condition on Horde side, that is, a very, like balancing on the edge of a knife, like ride the lightning, literally trying to like burst everyone down and kill them. Whereas Alliance could just sit there and be like, well, we'll have the healers bubble and we'll heal the warriors. It's not really, it's chill, man. Like we can just coast along, and whereas Horde, they're winning in the first 15 seconds of the fight, essentially, at like a Wrathy Basin mid specifically, or they lose, right? And they're different metas. Like I think in Warsaw Gulch, Horde is actually consistently stronger because of
I mean, Purge is amazing. Let's be real.
On like defense,
Purge is amazing. Yeah.
Purge is amazing. As breaking defense, not elemental shamans on defense. But I think Horde have like a lot of offensive power that's very strong. But I think that balance is actually very, very cool. Yes, it is hard to execute Horde. Yes, Alliance earlier on is much stronger, especially because of that, lack of gear, and you don't have the burst as much from Horde. But I think these unique faction identities, I think that they're fine, and I think that 99% of the time, the better player is going to win. Like the better group of players is going to win anyway. It's just, because it's harder to execute on Horde, yes, but if you actually have good players, it doesn't matter. Like, you do have the tools to
win. So at least you kind of feel that the good players will end up on top regardless, right? So let's get Takanashi and Serrano on this. What are you guys thinking?
Go ahead, Serrano.
Okay, so... Well, I think the Paladin is not that huge of a deal as many people think, because of course, yes, you have the bubble, you have the freedom, but after the bubble, you can just take him out of the game. I see a Paladin more like a supportive class of, cleansing the Viper Sting of the Horde hunters. That's basically it. And that's why I, for example, see a priest as a much better healer than a paladin, just because of the purge, obviously. But yeah, I think paladin is a little bit overrated. I know many people hate this statement, but from my experience, from both sides, either Alliance and Horde, it never was a big deal for my side.
Okay.
I think. Sometimes you kind of get stuck on it just breaks your it breaks you mentally, right? But you have to realize the weaknesses of different classes and just use it against them, right? Paladin sucks ass regards to healing more than one person, right? So you just have to take them out of the game and out of their comfort zone and kind of do whatever. It's like when Alliance face Shamis, right? You just set the rogue on them and they're gone, deleted, right? And the same with the Paladins. You just have to realize what they're, and also you have to see what this individual of a Paladin likes to do, and just remove them from whatever they like to do. And that will set them out of their comfort zone, and I promise you, you will never have a problem dealing with this person again. But yeah, paladins, when they're doing what they want, can be really hard to counter.
So let's take a little poll here, real quick. 1 second.
Okay.
So what do you guys think? So would you think it's pretty equal, guys, or would you think Alliance has the edge maybe early, then Horde later, or what do you feel as far as if you had to give the edge to one faction?
I'm going to make a strong opinion here and say Alliance definitely has the edge. I mean, I've done a lot of World PvP. I've led World PvP. I've been in those groups before, and you don't know the fucking hash of it when you have paladins throwing out freedoms and being able to bubble and just being able to free heal. Like when you have sappers going off and you have people coming in from different directions. Like it's a lot different in World PvP versus BG. So I'm not going to really talk about BGs when it comes to the balance. But in World PvP alone, like you have your main damage dealers in World PvP are going to be your mages, right? They're running in, they're novaing, they're trying to get people, stuck together in big groups, trying to get sappers off. Paladins really fucked that up. It really, I saw Monkey News making a point in the chat saying that, we both play UD mages, like we can break any fear, Yeah, that's obviously true. It's a really strong racial. But dude, Paladins, like the fact that they have this 10 seconds of just free healing and free dispelling, you talk about Paladins, like you have a Paladin who's bubbled. That means no other healer can be CC'd really if the Paladin knows what he's doing. I can't sheep another healer because he's just going to dispel it. It really creates a lot of issues for World PvP. Now I'm not saying we should change fucking vanilla. Let's give someone a way to person, but you have to admit in early World PvP in vanilla WoW, Paladins make such a big difference. I think they're worth 2 healers for every 1 healer the Horde has. Like
okay,
you need to bring serious healers. I mean, you need priests and shamans on dispelling. On offensive dispelling like crazy. That's something we do when we're in World PvP, and I know we're going against Paladins, and I know we have like a situation where there's like a rank 13 warrior who's just getting freedoms, and he's just fucking causing crazy havoc. I am screaming at my healers, dispel him. You have to be on dispels. We're having rogues on top of saps on the Paladins early. We need to break bubbles as quick as possible. When bubble breaks, we're destroying the Paladins as fast as possible. Like you have to be on top of these things, especially in World PvP exchanges, because it's just so strong when there's so much damage output going out so quickly in these early PvP exchanges.
So that's a strong endorsement for Alliance. What do you think, Serana?
Yeah, I mean,
would you say Horde or equal, or
I would go with the statement the better player wins. So I don't think there's any imbalance at the beginning or the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, of course, classes that has spell whatever, it will be stronger in the start because like warriors and stuff scale with gear. So you have that thing, but you have that thing in every start of the game. All the expansion, yeah.
What would be some of the advantages Horde have over Alliance, though? There's got to be some juicy stuff there too. I know we mentioned a lot of stuff with freedoms and bubbles and stuff.
Damage. Wind Fury and Elemental Shamans are insane. Like they are the amount of damage that they actually put out are insane. But when you like focus on the things that Team Muggsy's talking about, I think Horde, other than like the very beginning when warriors aren't very strong, when elemental shamans don't have a lot of gear, right? Because you're working on a itemization, patch by patch progression. Elemental shamans don't have a lot of gear at the beginning of the game. Warriors, right, the first few weeks, right, if they're not getting their BRE right away, if they're not getting that Spinal Reaper right away, they're not doing as much damage as they could be. Given that so much of the power of Horde, the damage of Horde is being packed into shamans, early on, I do think that there is a distinct disadvantage when compared to Horde. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal at all. I think Saran is right when he says the better player will win. I agree, and I think that's consistent throughout the game. But if you put two groups of players, right, like as a thought experiment, with the, like who are equally good, right? This is impossible. Like you're not going to have equally good players at equal classes, right? Like on opposite sides. That would never happen. But if it did, I think that Alliance would tend to win early on. But that being said, I think that's only typically in Arathi Basin and World PvP. Just because of, having the ability to spin bases so effectively, just because, like not giving up bases, because Paladins can say, okay, I don't want to be CC'd for 10 seconds. Okay, I want Blessing of Protection up, or Blessing of Sacrifice up, so you're not going to CC me if I have someone next to me taking damage at least. And so that, like, if you've like a mage and a Paladin and a base, you're never going to, you can spin that base for like 45 seconds if you're playing it right.
Yeah.
So it actually does create like an immensely difficult situation for other people, right? In Arathi Basin specifically. In Warsong Gulch, I think Horde do tend to have the favorable matchup, but when you look at World PvP, like Team Muggsy was saying, I don't think it has to do with the Paladin bubbling. I think that's bullshit. I don't think that matters. Freedom, throw it out the window. It's fucking useless. You have FAPs. But the thing is you can Blessing of Protection mages. So one thing in a matchup where you have 40 mages, you're running in against 40 mages, and like not against 40 mages, but you have like a shit ton of people running into each other. One mage is protected from all physical attacks. Another group of mages is not. They both are fapping so that they don't get slowed. So you literally have one immune to physical damage, the other one not to. That is such a huge advantage. No warrior can take them out. No rogue can take them out. Right there, they have free reign in World PvP, which is insane.
Okay.
But a good engagement will still counter, right? Like you can get a good engagement on Alliance and still win, right? Like you can. But if you do the same thing against Horde, like if you sapped their priests, for instance, they have no answer to that. If you sap the Paladins on Alliance, they do have an answer. They can just bubble.
Well, would it
So
be
there
fair
are
to
more
say
tools, I think.
would it be fair to say that the Horde racials are more impactful than the Alliance racials? I don't know how big of a factor that is in your guys' perspectives, but like the stun resist on
Depends on
orcs
the
and the
racial.
World of Forsaken.
Depends on the racial.
Yeah, depends.
Sorry,
I mean,
Alliance have
at the
decent
end,
racials.
I would say it's pay what's fun for you. I mean, I don't choose your race or your faction based on is this really best in slot for the game, because at the end of the day you have to play this like 6-8 hours a day, or if you're ranking 16 hours a day. So there's so much discussion about racials on certain classes. I mean, some are like crucial, like on priest, the fear ward, of course. But if you can't stand 16 hours a day playing an ugly dwarf in your eyes, right? It's not gonna contribute to your fun of the gameplay. So if you want to play some other race because it's much more fun and better for your eye, then go with that. Just I think
Yeah, I mean-
Monkey News mentioned it in his stream. He always says, just don't be shit. Okay, that's all what matters.
don't be shit.
That's true.
All right.
Especially because, like, as we discussed earlier, like in Battlegrounds, typically like 90% of the time, it's not going to be those games that are like nail biters. These racials aren't really going to make the difference in like 99.9% of situations. It's going to be like, are you consumed right? Like, are you with good people, right? Like, you can have night elf priests, you know, with fucking star shards or whatever, even though it's kind of useless. If you have good players, it really won't matter unless you're, you know, at like the World Series of Warsong Gulch for vanilla, which is never going to happen because vanilla was not designed to be an esport. That's not what it's about.
Yeah, true.
I see. All right, let's move on to the next point here, guys. This is something that, I don't know, maybe it's just interesting to me as kind of a nub here, or maybe it's interesting to people in the chat, but if we're talking with regard to the classes and in specifically world PvP, let's say we're talking about a 1v1 environment out in the open world. North and T-Mugsy have most experience on a mage. Taka has experience on both priest and warrior, right? Serana, you played, is it rogue? Do you have some other experiences, maybe perhaps? I have experience on hunter. I'd be interested to see what your perspectives are as far as 1v1s out in the open world. Maybe we can start with Taka. Taka, so maybe, I don't know if you want to jump in on maybe warrior or priest, but what are your best matchups and some of your worst matchups generally if when you're out in the open world?
Are you talking about when I got rank 14 gear or while leveling?
It's hard to say. I guess I would just try and generalize it and say for the majority of your vanilla experience, what matchups do you think your win condition is not existent? You just have to run away. What matchups are you going to be aggressive over and you feel like you have the advantage and you press your advantage? I just think that's kind of an interesting thing for people. It's kind of like a dueling open world PvP type thing. I think it'd be kind of interesting. So as a warrior, what do you or maybe even just personally, what matchups do you like going up against and which ones do you kind of fear?
Well, it's like I played Alliance, right? So and I played Night Elf, even if people claim that that's not the biz, right? But I like the Shadow Meld thing, and it's very convenient when you're running in the world, and you can just Shadow Meld wherever. And I kind of like the play style of being a Shadow Meld kind of character, where I can make it work for me, and I learn how to use it to beat mages and hunters, and the kind of anti classes for a warrior. But in general, I would say while leveling, it's really hard as a warrior unless you're skilling engineering while doing it to just kill anyone that isn't really shit. But I mean,
man,
kind of be really, really aware of your surroundings. Always expect someone to jump you. Have your shield macro and shit ready, so you can just pop that. In general, be aware of your surroundings, and I mean, once you hit that level 60 and get that gear, you can skill your professions and just have some fun, but while leveling as a warrior, I would say you're really weak, probably one of the weakest classes. I mean, you can face a really bad like druid or chamois or priest or whatever, but the thing is that they can heal, and healing is really OP, right?
Okay. Maybe Serana, do you have any thoughts on it?
Well, as a rogue, the best thing in my tool set is that I can choose my fights in open PvP, right? In world PvP. I can obviously sneak around, and I can make myself the choice. Do I jump on this guy or just let him pass because it's an unfavorable matchup or a much better player than me? Maybe it's a Soul Link Warlock where I couldn't find the key till now how to beat him in a duel, right?
Mhm.
So it's much about that. What cooldowns I have up to face this certain class and stuff. Obviously, there are some classes that are more favorable matchup. You can jump easily. But
Well, what are
that's
some
the
of those?
biggest
What are
advantage.
some of those unfavorable matchups? Out of curiosity, as a rogue, let's say with full cooldowns, and let's say with decent PvP gear and game.
Yeah, okay, let's say skill matchup is equal between the players. I would say there are many hard matchups for Rogue, especially Priest, Shadow Priest. Mage, against Mage, it's always the mind game, right? So Mage Rogue setup is back and
Mage Rogue is
forth.
the most fun duel.
Yeah, it's really a mind game. You can't say there's one class on top of the other. I think Hunter is pretty easy with like Skull and Ice Reflector and some things like that. Soul Link Warlock is something I couldn't break till now against a good player because it's just too tanky.
You
It's
couldn't
so
break?
much. No.
Okay,
I had
okay.
I have no key for this until till now. So if someone can teach me out there, please do it.
Have you done the Serenity Dispel on the pet?
Yeah, but that's a thing you cannot rely on, right?
Yeah, it's pretty.
I mean,
it's
I saw
RNG.
that.
Yeah.
I also saw the perplexity thingy of that to teach myself, but I don't know if it works every time, and that's something you cannot rely on. Yeah. So I mean, other rogues, if you jump other rogues, it's pretty easy to do with some bleeds and skull for the blind. Shaman can be quite hard because they can kite you pretty badly, and I think Warrior is one of the more easy setups compared to the other classes, I would say, as a rogue, because you are most time you are in power of the kiting.
Okay. So Shadow Priest. So you said Mage is about equal. Hunter's pretty easy for you with Ice Reflector. Warlock is probably. It seemed by the sound of your voice that the Soul Link Warlock was just the unwinnable. That's you don't have the key to
For
the
me at
puzzle
least.
there. Okay. All right. How about you, T Mugsy? Do you have any as a mage? What are some of your favorable and unfavorable matchups?
I mean, SL Warlock is pretty miserable for Mage as well too. Warlock in general can be a tough fight if you don't have Shadow Reflector up. It depends. Like, if we're talking about like a fair duel, I mean, it's pretty tough to beat a lock. Let's be real. Rogue is a really fun matchup. It's pretty even, so that's always a good one. Warrior is pretty fucking easy, as long as Warriors can make it more tough if they're using things to interrupt you while they have you at range. If you have them at range, they're using things like Sleep Dust, or they have Reflector. They're properly using grenades, Rocket Helm. If they're using all these cooldowns, they can make it more difficult. But honestly, Mage should always beat a Warrior. Hunter can be interesting. Mage should honestly burst them down. But Hunter can be an interesting matchup. It just actually depends on the server and how the pets are on the server. I know on like Northdale at the moment, every Hunter has loot post, and that can be pretty annoying. Obviously,
Mhm.
it can make a mage feel pretty difficult. I know there's some issues with how the Hunter pet hits, and I know they were saying that like a level 30 Hunter pet can still hit a level 60 because they have some issues with like resist and parries and things like that. Like they're acting as if they're a level 60 pet throughout the game. I heard. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. So it really depends on the server with the pet. I mean, Mage v Mage is a really fun duel in my opinion. A lot of resets. That's actually a really fun duel. I actually really enjoy that one. World PvP is interesting, especially when it comes to like these matchups as well too. Like, honestly, my favorite matchup for sure is gonna be Rogue versus Mage. I think it's the most interesting, especially if they pop a FAP or something. It really like changes shit up. So.
How about Shadow
Anyway.
Priest? How do you do versus Shadow Priest as a, or even just Disc Priest or something like that as Mage?
Disc Priest isn't really an issue until later in the game. They can start healing really hard, but I mean, it just depends on the counterspell and locking them out. And obviously, a UD Mage has a pretty nice advantage against them. Shadow Priest, I really don't get that matchup a lot. I know North was having an issue with Shadow Priest, like on one of his past streams.
Dude, leveling Shadow Priests are impossible to kill.
I don't really deal with that matchup very often, dude. Like it's not something you don't really see. I mean, World PvP you occasionally see it. And it's rare that you see a really good Shadow Priest.
Now you play Horde, but you play Horde, so maybe this would only apply in a duel situation. But how does Shaman versus Mage pan out? But, well, I'm sure North has an opinion on that for sure, right? So,
yeah, Shaman versus Mage. I actually do that duel a lot. I actually enjoy that one a lot. It's just about working on the grounding totem. You know, obviously the Shaman's going to try to fake out your interrupt. Being locked out of nature spells is really going to fuck them. So, like, you know, I actually like that duel a lot. It's a lot of mind playing and, you know, messing around using your rank 1 Frostbolt to really get the grounding down, depending on what spec you're playing as a mage. They're going to be purging everything off you like right away. So forget your shield if you are a deep frost spec, you know, that's going away. You know, if you get a good sheep on them and you can get a really good like a burst setup, you know, into a shatter, it can be really give you a lot of advantage there. You know, it's when it comes to 1v1 duels, it's a lot of, you know, it depends on how you're doing the duels, how you're doing the fights, are consumables allowed, what's going on. They can be really fun, man. For mage, you have a lot of advantages over a lot of other classes. There's not too many classes that really like dump on you. You know, a druid probably should beat you, a warlock probably should beat you, but honestly, if a mage puts in enough effort and has the right setup, they can probably beat them too. So
interesting. You said a druid can probably beat you. That's what kind of druid are we talking here?
Like a balanced resto mix.
Balanced resto,
like, you know,
or resto barrel, really.
Yeah. I mean, they can outlast you. That's a big thing. They can outlast you big time.
Okay.
Being able just to heal themselves and to CC you, good charges, good bashes. They can even, you know, obviously they can root you and run away if you don't have the ability to get rid of that root at the moment. Like they can use a lot of things to get away and reset the fight, just like a mage can really a fight. Resetting fights is big, and for mage, it's all about getting your burst combinations in, you know, and getting a really good CS. Like those can really make or break like what's going on. And then you can use your other tools and trinkets and like, you know, abilities to extend that burst and to stop them from maybe healing or from resetting. And that's where, you know, obviously mages have the biggest advantage.
Okay.
Is just being able to control your opponent.
Okay. Seems like you have a pretty, you know, balanced mix of matchups there. North, would you agree with what T-Mugs is saying? Is there anything you might want to add as far as maybe the Shaman duel?
Some of it, yeah. I think I'd probably, like, the biggest thing I'd probably disagree with is the Lupos crap. Lupos doesn't matter for mage. It's like a 20% damage increase. Mage is like 3 armor. It's not a big deal. I think that there is a gear break and sort of in the hunter mage matchup. But I think that at the end of the day, once you get a little bit of stamina, once you've got like enough blues from dungeons, right? Like if you like full blue in dungeons, shit like Hands of Power, Sky Shroud, like Dreadmist Shoulders, maybe something like Alana's Embrace, and you know, just like enough stam and intellect to like outlast the initial damage of the hunter, like at range, and have enough mana to get through maybe 1 or 2 Viper Stings and still kill them. Hopefully 1, then you should be killing the hunter most times. If they jump you in the world and you have like nothing up, obviously you're gonna get fucked, which is typically what happens against hunters and why people are, you know, so, you know, angry at hunters, because, you know, they do have a lot of range, they can engage very easily, they don't need many resources to do things, they don't need to set up. Like I have to buff, you know, like I have to have like 3 buffs rolling, as well as like my mana gems and like food and water. And it could be hard to reset against a BM hunter just because of their pet and how fast their pet is. But the matchup itself, right, I think is very, very heavily mage favored once you get a bit of that stamina. And I think that's like one of the biggest misconceptions about mage. Is like, oh, they get shit on my hunter. They really don't. Like, even with like the peak of hunter from crossbow smiting, by the time that a hunter gets crossbow smiting, I think that's like the highest point of the game for a hunter. Even then, I don't think they do enough damage.
Well, let me ask you, what's your hardest matchup? What do you think are some of your hardest matchups?
SO Warlock is actually impossible. You should never win against an SO Warlock as a mage if the SO Warlock knows what they're doing, because like you won't actually get the reflector off. You won't actually get, and you really shouldn't have a reflector on against a Warlock, in my opinion, because like if you respect the Warlock, they're not gonna cast something into you like when like they just won't be that stupid. They'll wait. They'll be smart about it, and they can really just outlast you.
It depends how the reflector's working on the server, right? Like, because I know on previous servers there's been some situations where the reflector works when the cast is actually in midair versus when it's actually casting.
Yeah, but that's like the midair cast is not Blizz-like. So like they have recorded videos of like if it's in the middle of the air and you reflect, it should not reflect according to the videos that I've watched. So if it does reflect in the middle of the air, yes, like then it is worth it to equip a shadow reflector, because then you can get the death coil off. back onto the Warlock. But if it's a good Warlock, they're not going to death coil in stupid situations. They're not going to death coil when really like that's available to you, because they'll just save it. They don't need it against a mage. They really don't. So SL Warlock, it is next to impossible. A bad SL Warlock, yes, you can do things to you can do things to fuck them early, or if they have the wrong pet in the world, right? Like there are always situations, like you burst down the Warlock a little bit, you maybe title charm the pet, and like if it's a Void Walker in the last 2 seconds, and you burst them down, and they're like, why doesn't sacrifice work? Oh my god, like that can happen, but that's going to be against worse players who don't know what's really going on around them.
Okay.
You can try and make it more even, right? Like non-SL Warlocks, you can, try and have Glimmering Mithril Insignia on from the beginning, so you don't have to use any trinkets, right? Like Wotif I think Wotif is really bad in most matchups because it spends a global in matchups where you can't spend globals. Priest, for instance, I prefer to have my PvP trinket on because it's no global, and that matchup is very, very bounced on a knife's edge. I think that potentially Team Muggsy has not gone up against a lot of good Disc Priests, because it is actually a harder matchup. If you don't land the CS, you will lose. And even if you land the CS, you could, it's beatable, but if it's good, right, like if they're good, they won't give you an opportunity to CS. Specifically, if they're Alliance, they'll use Desperate Prayer far before they use anything else, right? Like Inner Focus Desperate Prayer, right? Like they'll go back to full health. They have a lot of health bars. In reality, they can shield and renew and just try and outlast you, which is a very effective thing to do. It's definitely a winnable matchup. It's just a harder one. But that's what I like about Mage. Is like on the surface, if you aren't playing Disc Priest right, it isn't just I can Frostbolt into him and win. You will lose if you're not playing it right against a Disc Priest, against a Druid, against a Shaman, for instance. But like all those matches are very winnable, right? Like Shaman, I think is actually one of the most fun matchups, and it's part of the reason why I prefer to play Alliance. Because they have to play against Shamans rather than Paladins. Paladins aren't fun to play against. Just because they negate so much of the Mage toolkit, and there's no like interactivity there. But like Shaman versus Mage, you have a very interesting. You are longer range than their shocks, which are how they close the distance. So you kind of can sit in a dead zone that's not a dead zone for their lightning bolts, but is a dead zone for their shocks. So you actually have a huge advantage out there, as well as they can't really counter the sheep. You have a good answer in the rank 1 Frostbolt, 2 grounding totems. So you do have a lot of pressure against the Shaman. Plus, they only have 1 castable School of Spell. So if you catch them on a CS, you have an enormous advantage to actually be able to kill them. But that's sort of the invert, like the converse to that, is the Shamans should be really good at fake casting because they only have 1 School of Spell available to cast. So, and if they get caught on it, they're pretty much fucked.
Okay.
So I mean, like, I definitely think Shadow Priest is a hard matchup while leveling. I don't think it's that hard after leveling, and it's something that I've just been, trying to become more acquainted with. It's kind of hard to make them spend mana. That's really like what you want to do against a Shadow Priest, is try and make them spend as much mana inefficiently, initially, and then like just reset the fight a couple of times favorably for you is what I found to be most effective for me. So I don't think it's that too hard of a matchup. While leveling, it's just they don't scale well, but they have really, really good base damage. But again, like they don't have the mana for that base damage. The problem you have with Shadow Priest in PvE actually frequently is that you need mana per 5 because you run out of mana after like 4 fucking spells. And that's true in like leveling as well. So really it is taking advantage. But yeah, like I think Druid is a harder matchup. Priest can be a harder matchup. Warlock is, against a really good Warlock, next to impossible. But other than that, I think Mage actually does favorably. Hunter, I think is an easy matchup. Warrior, you're brain dead, you can kill a Warrior. Paladin, you could just reset and win. That's fine, or you could just run away. It doesn't really matter. And I think actually one of the principal advantages, and this is like it's kind of long-winded, but one of the principal advantages of the Mage that I think Team Muggsy touched on is you can just choose to run away as a Mage. I think more than any other class, you can just sheep and then fuck off. Or if it's a Druid, like Druids obviously can ignore it, but and BM Hunters to some extent. But you can kind of just reset any fight. You're so slippery with with Blink, with Ice Block, that you can get away from so much, which I think is such a huge advantage. Yes, you might not win against that Warlock, but there's no way that Warlock's following you.
Okay.
And I think that's true of a lot of matchups.
All right. Well, that's a lot of information right there. All right. Now let's switch gears a little bit. So I'm curious. You guys are all pretty acquainted with your respective classes. Now I'm wondering, what advice would you give to someone if, maybe we can start with Taka. Someone wants to play Warrior. They want to PvP with a Warrior. Do you have any tips and tricks, things that you wish you knew? Maybe like now with all the years of experience you have under your belt, things you might want to recommend to a new player? And also, with respect to Warriors, what does the itemization look like? Are you going for rank 14 as a Warrior? Is that the ultimate BIS? Some classes don't need to get to rank 14 to be fully be best in slot. So just maybe the the general rundown of warrior PvP and what your recommendations and tips and tricks are would be interesting.
Well, I mean, for me, uh, going all the way is definitely something I want to do, and if you have the time in your life to do it, then yeah, of course. But my biggest advice for people who are playing warriors is that you have to be. I mean, like 2 million warriors out there, right? Everyone who saw the fucking Monkey News video or Swifty warrior tricks back in the day, they want to be a warrior and they think it's easy, but it's not, because there's so many of you, and you kind of have to make sure that you're being humble, and at the end of the day, you're going to do this for a long time. So make sure that you make friends along the way, and I think warrior is really bad being solo. So make sure that you have friends, because that's gonna help you a lot. And I mean, if you don't love playing warrior, then you shouldn't do it, because it's probably I mean, if not then at least one of the top hardest classes to play in WoW, because there's high maintenance. You need a lot of gold. You need to put a lot of time and effort into your warrior. Not only during the leveling phase, but also if you want to be a hardcore guy and top tier player, right? Either if it's PvE or PvP, you got to make sure that you really love this class. And
What do you love about the class? What are the things that appeal to you most about the warrior playstyle and the warrior ethos? Where I love talking about the class fantasy type stuff. Is there something that really appeals to you? Is it your favorite class in vanilla?
Yeah, I mean, I started to play priest, right? And that was I just fell in love with the priest, and I mean, quickly became really famous on my server back in the day as the go-to priest if you wanted to do pre-mates. But as I played, I kind of understood the potentials of a warrior, and the more I tried warrior, the more I realized that, okay, so if I want to be a guy that likes challenges, then warrior is absolutely one of the classes that I need to learn how to play in the World of Warcraft, right? And there's a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of information, but at the end of the day, it's you. You can watch all the videos and read all the guides, but I mean, you just have to put the hours into it. You just have to lose 100 duels to mages. You have to lose 100 duels to rogues and hunters and whatever. And one time you'll beat that motherfucking mage, right? And I swear to God, it's one of the best feelings that you ever had. And once you beat that mage, you realize that there's potential to beat every mage, right? Yeah. And to me, when someone tells me, listen, if you want to play a warrior, you have to get used to never beating mages. So right there, challenge accepted. Okay.
So you like the underdog mentality of being a warrior. That's something that appeals to you.
Yes. To me, it appeals. I mean, you have a million people that's better than me of theory crafting and whatever. You have a lot of go-to guys regarding this whole. If you want to be the best warrior regarding DPS, blah 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 blah. But my strength is creativity, right? If I see someone, I can understand their weaknesses, and I just try to take advantage of their weaknesses and do what I can to beat them with that knowledge. And that's what I love with the warrior. And also, when you're playing a warrior, it's kind of, I mean, maybe not expected, right? But at some point of your WoW PvP career, you will probably be leading a battleground, right? And I like to have that influence, and I like that challenge. And at some, it in the start it can be pretty scary. You're like taking charge of 9 other people, and some points 14 other people, and you're telling them what to do. And if you're making a mistake, at the end of the day, it's probably your mistake, right? I mean, you have to be. I mean, everyone can make mistakes, right? But as a leader, you have to make sure that you're not killing people because they made one mistake. Because you're the leader, so if they made a mistake, then you have to take it on your shoulders that it was probably your mistake at the beginning, right? And I mean, I got pissed off at people, and I really apologize to whoever I screened my head off. But I can probably count on one hand the times that I lost my head, right? And I don't know, that play style fits me like a glove. I love the warrior, and especially the PvP BG scenarios. And yeah, I mean, holy shit, it's a big challenge. And vanilla is a challenge, and you just have to pick what piece of the pie that fits you. And warrior, that's I thought priest was me, but warrior.
So you had
Yeah.
to play priest to realize that warrior is your class. Nice, man.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
let's pass it to Serana, man. What are your favorite aspects of being a rogue? Is it your favorite class in vanilla? Do you have another class that you identify more with, or what's your story? What do you like most about being a rogue?
Yeah, well, being a rogue is, like I said, you can choose your fights. Most of the times, that's what I really like about it. In Battlegrounds, not so much, obviously. And I was like starting on rogue, being like in back in the day in classic, right, like 12 years old or something, the sneaky assassin, going to two-shot everyone based on the videos I saw, blah blah blah. And playing it now, it changed a lot. My view changed a lot of rogue, because when you rank in battlegrounds, it's not so much the two-shotting and offensive being thing about rogue. Most of the times you sit on a base defending it in AB. In Warzone you sit flag room all day trying to get the druid off guard. And if he somehow makes it out of your room because you made a mistake, then it's your job to prepare the offensive push, and that's the only time basically you go out of your base, right? If you fucked up defending it. So some people still have those images in their head that they will two-shot clothies all time. That might be the case if you're leveling and you are like that one guy going around ambushing the sitting and regening mage at 20%, right? That's some fun, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But later on in the game, you will notice that it is much more of a challenge to kill people, actually, because you are most likely preparing and supporting your team or your defense or your push. So I would say from ranking to rank 14, I was like 3 times in the mid fight, in the initial mid fight in Warzone Gulch, because we tried to do another strat, but obviously it's like that's not what the rogue is made for. It's not what the people or the community figured out to be working. It's not your job in a pre-mate.
And is rogue a class that needs to go to rank 14 to get full bis? Is there a certain stopping point, or is there a reason to go the whole 9 yards?
It is rank 14. It's the best you can get till next Ramus, of course. So Kel'Thuzad weapons are the weapons you're gonna replace your rank 14 stuff. Until the till next Ramus, it's the best you can get. It's really sick shit, the things you get. And I mean, like the Grand Martial Swords combined in PvE with your combat spec, or even with Hemo spec in Battlegrounds, it's such a huge jump from everything you have seen before. It's so sick. It's the biggest upgrade you can ever obtain. in my view.
Okay.
It's so nice.
And Rogue is known, I think, has a reputation for being a high skill cap class. Now, as a rank 14 Rogue, I mean, that is so awesome. I'm so glad you're even sharing this knowledge with us. But what would you recommend, newer Rogue players? What do you think is going to take them from a lower skill level to a higher skill? What's going to move the needle most as far as making them a better player as a Rogue? Is it, movement, game sense, binds, all of the above? Is there anything that like really stepped your game up as a Rogue that you recall?
Yeah, well, all of the mentioned things. Obviously, like binds is the 101 of Rogue. I think of every class in PvP, you need to have your binds set up. Everything. The moment you start clicking, you lose time, and that's a bad thing in PvP because everyone else won't do it and has an advantage over you. And then there is the thing like I would say just get it out of your mindset that you will destroy people in 5 seconds, because that's not the case in the later gameplay when you face actually people who know how to play around you. So you have to make quick decisions as a rogue and play around the class you are facing. And for each different class, there's something you have to mention to see. Like on mages, it's not always the best thing to stick on him. You can even out jump or outrange the frost nova if you know it's coming. You can open with the cheap shot into the gouge to hope that he blinks and gouges. The gouge hits him after he blinked, right? So he's stuck in 20 yards, and you can close the gap, obviously. So that those are little things you will see and experience yourself on your way playing a rogue in PvP. And yeah, like I said, don't be the mad guy that wants to kill everyone in two buttons. Use your whole tool set. That's the best I can say, basically.
Okay, so get out of that mindset of being able to kill someone in a stun lock, right, and prepare yourself to use everything you have and play the longer game, be more supportive to your team as a rogue. It's a interesting play style. A lot of people might not share. All right, let's pass it off to T-Mugs. Is mage your favorite class? Is it the class you identify most with? What do you like most about being a mage? Are you going mage for classic? I guess all of these above questions. I think you're on mute, bro.
Yeah, I muted myself. There we go.
Oh no, sorry.
I definitely think I'm going to be playing Mage and Classic. Mage and Druid are my two favorite classes by far. It takes a lot to learn your class in vanilla. Like really, like to learn the specifics and the details and every like little nook, and like even going to like learning how to farm or what's the best way to the best route to get prebis and all these different things. So I'm definitely going to stick with Mage just because I spent a lot of time and effort in learning these things, and I still want to grow as a Mage because there's still more I can learn. For people who want to maybe play Mage in Classic and like they want to, what's a quick idea or detail that you can give me that will help me? When it comes to PvP, just, don't be afraid to reset the fight, or even like Nora said, don't be afraid to disengage. You have a lot of control and you have a lot of power to choose kind of when you want to fight as well, just like a rogue. You really can get away from most situations. So use that to your advantage. Use the ability to reset your fights and control the situation, because that's the biggest thing about Mage, is how much control you do have and how you have the ability to continue to reset your the fights. A really good tip for mages, I would really look into trinkets, offhands. Definitely get into engineering really quickly. These are really important for mage. Mage definitely, I think, gets a lot out of the ability items in the game. It really changes how they play and gives them a lot more advantages. It really makes a huge difference. Obviously, things like first aid is 100% necessary as a mage. You need to get that as quickly as possible. But let's talk about things that like a little bit further. Like, Tidal Charm is one of the things that are a little bit harder to get there. But there's easier items you can get, like having Nifty Stopwatch is huge. Having Skull of Impending Doom is absolutely necessary as a mage. Maybe not as necessary as like per se a rogue, but you absolutely still want it. You need it, especially if you plan on doing anything like well PvP wise. It's really, really important. Even in BGs too, it's huge. It enables you to maybe stop that CC so you can get that flag in AB, or it gives you that extra speed boost in Warstone Golds when you're running the flag, because you didn't have a druid that game. It's really, really huge. These items, and you'll see tons of YouTube videos out there that will show you about these different items and different like item abilities that you can get that will make the biggest difference for your mage gameplay. On top of that, farming gold is hugely important because consumables are hugely important. As a mage, you definitely want to have things like a limited vulnerability pot. That's really, really strong. Makes a huge difference in world PvP. You definitely want, having FAPS is really strong as well too. A free action potion, having health pots, mana pots. You're going to want to use these things in different situations. The poison removal elixir is really important against hunters. That's hugely important when they just, I know, when you're fighting a hunter maybe at max range, they might hit you with Viper Stings and just drain you of your mana from the very beginning. That can be really, really annoying and really fuck with you. If you can remove that Viper Sting, it can make a huge difference. Maybe you can win that fight, even though they're max ranging you with their pet. That might be able to make the difference. Just look into, like, that's the biggest difference about Vanilla WoW than any other expansion, is you have your set of core class abilities, but what really, like, makes you better and changes the game for you is going to be the item abilities that you get a hold of and the ability to use consumables in the right way. Because, you know, I've seen rogues who just pop a FAP right off the beginning and they still lose. I've seen people use these items like a Skull of Impending Doom. They pop a skull and, like, they see Swifty do it or someone else do it on YouTube and they use it and they don't know how to click it off or have a macro that takes it off or whatever the scenario is, and they end up killing themselves. Like, you can't just throw these items on and then think you're going to be good with them. You need to constantly use them. That's even the same with consumables. If you're going to start using consumables in PvP, you need to be using them in duels in every situation that you PvP in. So that's one of the biggest things I would say is just learn about these abilities outside of your class, and then use them every day until you can, you know, use them with just like muscle memory. I think that makes a big difference.
Okay, that's really good stuff, man. That's really good advice for players that are considering playing mage, and that's something I want to talk about in a second with regard to everyone who talks about engineering being the best PvP profession. I'm curious about what the secondary profession. I mean, you probably have some flexibility there, but let's pass it off to North real quick. North, what do you like? I mean, you mentioned it a couple times in your thoughts so far. What do you like about mage? You actually played warlock, right? You said you had more PvE experience as a warlock, even more so than mage. What about mage really appeals to you the most, and what advice would you share to new mage players to get them up in skill level a lot if you had to do it all over again? Oh, yeah, I think you're on mute too, bro.
Oh, shit. Both mages on mute?
Yeah, both mages on mute.
But yeah, no, mage requires no brain, forehead. No, but I think Team Muggsy actually touched on a lot of the good things, and actually, like a specific example, right? Like, Team Muggsy was like, oh, like was mentioning me, oh, like, do you have an Eye of Smolar Web, North? And I, like earlier in the server, and he was like, it's sick for Rogue v Rogue, and I was like, why? That seems garbage, blah blah blah. Like, it's just a trinket, and I looked at it, and I was like, holy shit, it's 20 nature damage every 2 seconds for 20 fucking seconds. That's ridiculous against anything but dwarf. So it's like there is so much to learn about this game. There's so many items. Like, I had no clue that would be amazing, and it's you know, I don't use it that often, right? It is like really, it is a cheesy sort of like, if there's a rogue, I'll throw it on, and it is very strong against the rogue. But you know, be open to that item meta. You know, like Team Muggsy said, it is so, like, it does change so much about how mage is played. Like, when you properly gadget out, is the way that I'll like refer to it, I guess. But yeah, I mean, you know, just play. Again, like Team Muggsy covered most of it. You know, if you're going to be playing with consumes, really use those consumes, because the only thing that's going to get you used to actually, you know, like health potting on cooldown or using lips properly, using FAPs properly, is having a shit ton of them and, like, you know, being willing to use them, right? Because it doesn't matter if you have them and are refusing to use them, which happens with a lot of people, right? They don't actually have enough.
So it seems like between you and Team Muggsy, mage is a class that shines a lot and really comes online more with items and being gadgeted, like you said. So maybe that would be a fair piece of advice to share to people, to get those as soon as possible, to get some experience with them under your belt and start using them, you know, as much as possible.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because like for instance, you know, like every mage, I think, like has an opportunity, like has had a situation in which they've used Skull, and it's been the right situation to use Skull, and they've left it on for too long, and they end up half health and no mana, and then they lose because, you know, they misplayed it. But like it's as simple as, you know, like having the macro to remove the skull when you need to, you know, having that keybind. And it can be very actually challenging on mage, because while you don't have a lot of keybinds as a default, right? You want a Furbolg medicine pouch, you want a celestial orb for like as a mana use offhand item, you want all these fucking gadgets, you want, you know, like 3 pairs of boots in your bag, like goblin rocket boots, gnomish rocket boots, your regular rocket boots. You want so much shit in your bags, and all that shit, like, that's keybound. Like, Like you have to have like every boot available to immediately click, because like if you know, if you're in a situation where you're running away from 15 people, right, and you need to quickly swap boots, and there's a second of combat, right? Like if you're trying to counter, like if you're trying to like obviously you'd be in combat then, but if you're trying to like throw a grenade while switching your boots, right, which has actually happened to me, and you're not in combat and you need to swap boots while throwing this grenade, you're gonna get fucked if you don't have a keybind. So like that's actually my biggest advice to players, like to new players of Mage, but of really any class, is get used to the items. The item meta in vanilla is so real. Get used to having keybinds. Think about what keybinds are good for you. I constantly change my keybinds. I've constantly been changing my keybinds. I'm finally settling into some that I really, really like, because I want to know what's fast for me and what works the best, right? Like I used to use, like Fire Blast used to be on E for me, but you don't need to Fire Blast very quickly. So I changed it to something on my mouse, so it's, you know, like it is a faster keybind that you need, but I need to trinket far more often, and my trinkets were on really weird cooldowns. So now I have them on my best abilities. Counterspell, Cold Snap, things that are off the global cooldown. You need to have those so easily available, because you need to be using abilities while you counterspell, because you can immediately, like, you know, in the middle of a Cone of Cold, swap to the healer, and then immediately CS the healer in the middle of your Cone of Cold because it's off the global, you know? You can, you know, be in the middle of another global and Cold Snap into a Frost Nova. All those things, like, it's so, like, that twitch finger is what really separates, in my opinion, you know, the good mages, because it's not that hard to be good on Mage. It really isn't. It's one of the easier classes to get familiar with, but to get amazing at Mage, you know, using these items properly, you know, being, you know, like, you know, lightning fast off the global cooldown, those things are actually, in my mind, very, very difficult. So, I mean, getting familiar with your tools and getting comfortable with them is definitely the biggest thing that you can to sort of better your Mage gameplay on every class, but especially Mage.
All right, yo, thanks for sharing that, man. So at this point, guys, we're gonna open it up for questions. I think we got through all the main things here. Let me see.
Also, on the point of secondary profession, if you aren't a PvE gamer and you're a mage, you should go blacksmithing, especially if you're Alliance, because you can get a trinket that makes you immune to fear, which makes you literally better than undead in every single way.
Which trinket is that?
It's called Glimmering Mithril Insignia. You need blacksmithing for it, so like you won't have the Bloodvine set bonus. But I mean, 2% crit versus, you know, in PvE content that's 14 years old, or immunity to fear. Immunity to fear for 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Insane. Absolutely nuts.
Now,
Good for tanks too.
Taka and Serana, do you guys have opinions on what another profession would be? First of all, Goblin or Gnomish engineering. I mean, obviously, I think everyone's aligned in that engineering is going to be absolutely essential if you plan on PvPing in any capacity. So I'm curious about your thoughts on Goblin versus Gnomish, but also as far as the secondary profession goes.
Yeah, so I'm all out Gnomish. Goblin is good for sappers and PvE, of course, and if you want to port to Winterspring, it is, I think. But yeah, Gnomish gets you the most tools you will use in PvP. Also, you can port to Gadgetzan and refresh your
Noggenfoggers, yeah.
Noggenfogger, thank you. Yeah, Noggenfogger stacks between the battlegrounds. So yeah, I mean, it's necessary, of course. It's one of the consumables you will need in PvP to fly down from certain bases in AB, or make yourself smaller as a druid, or even as any other character. And yeah, second profession, I always go with Irving, because somehow you have to finance the shit you use in PvP. And if you Irving and you have some guildmates who can craft you stuff you will need, that's obviously a plus. And besides that, you can maybe get some money out of it, just going around a bit in world PvP between the battleground queues, maybe. If you don't have any instant queues, then you're pretty much in a bad spot, because it will drain your gold a lot, the ranking, because of all the consumes, of course. So yeah, I always go with Irving. You can do, as a rogue at least, you can do some nasty stuff in ZG with the Bloodvine solo farming. That will make you most likely rich after release of CG, because everyone of the casters wants the Bloodvine set. So that's a good way to go for me, at least.
Okay. Taka, do you have any thoughts as far as a secondary profession, what your preference is? Is there anything you enjoy?
Yeah, your secondary profession as a warrior should definitely be an alt character.
Alt character. With which professions on the alt character?
Well, I mean, I had a mage, right, farming Dire Mall East and making gold there, and just you have the alchemy things which everyone is using, and prices go up and down during the week, and you buy some shit on like Sunday, Monday, when it's real cheap, and then you sell it on Wednesday, Thursday, and you make like 100. I mean, you can't become a millionaire, but you can make 100 gold, which is enough for you to respec and whatever. During the week, it's easy money, and also you make a lot of gold from just turning in badges, right? Yeah. So that's my 5 cent, and I find it easiest to just spend my time leveling a mage or a hunter, whatever you prefer. But then you have easy time once you're done, because otherwise you can find a healer and you can probably farm some dungeon, two-manning it, get some mining, disenchanting, stuff like that. But I mean, they're trying to make vanilla sound like it's impossible to make gold, but it isn't, right? You just have to be creative and find out what works for you, and make some easy duelers.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. All right, guys. So we're gonna open it up to some questions now. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Now it's time to take some questions here. We got some smart people here. So if you guys have any questions about PvP in general, put them in the chat. Drop them in the chat now. I'll start taking them and forward them. We can jump in on them. So we got one right here. Okay, what do you guys think is the best class to play in almost every way? All right, so that's gonna be pretty subjective there. Mage. We're gonna get some answers here, some different answers here. But let's see what you guys think, man. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. Will North and Muggsy get Culvers with me before I'm 35 years old? Connor, dude.
Connor, come over. If you want Culvers, you can come over, brother.
Why is Serana so handsome, Cargos? I don't know, man. Just genetics, dude. Okay, tips for Mage versus Rogue matchup for the Mage. All right, so you got some freaking qualified people here to answer that. What would be some tips from your perspective? And we have a Rogue in the house, too, actually. Wow, okay, so let's maybe start with maybe T-Mugs. T-Mugs, you have any tips versus Rogue?
You got to be quick. Definitely save your blocks for blind 100%. The minute you do block, you need to cold snap, because he will come in with another blind. That's the biggest thing, is you got to be quick on your cold snap. When you're in block, you also have the opportunity to decide when you come out of block. Usually I come out almost instantly, get right back on the Rogue. My main goal when fighting a Rogue is obviously resetting the fight, getting rid of his cooldowns, having control, and then just controlling where he can and can't go. If he pops a FAP, you absolutely need to sheep. Be careful though; he probably is going to pop his Skull Impending Doom. So you don't want to burn your sheep out too early. Get it on DR. Having your what's it called, your Rocket Helm there is going to be huge. Rocket Helm is really big against Rogue. You do need to be ready when you do sheep them. Have ready to Blizzard, because he's most likely gonna trinket your sheep. Be ready for that. It's just little simple tricks with Rogues. It's about being really quick, man. Rogues are gonna move real fast. Their whole goal is gonna be to control you, and you need to try to control them. And obviously the trinkets and things you have as well make a big difference. If a Rogue does FAP, it's a really good idea to counter with a lip. That's usually what I do.
Counter with a what?
Really a limited invulnerability pot.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
If a Rogue is going to use a free action potion on you, which a lot of Rogues will, you need to counter with a lip into a sheep. That's really important. Just like I said before, you need to be careful though of the Skull Impending Doom. Again, with Rogues, man, just work on keeping them out of stealth. Work on keeping your distance and controlling them with Rank 1 Frostbolt. Rank 1 Frostbolt is your best friend when it comes to Rogues. Also, if you want to work on something keeping them in out of stealth, obviously a Rank 1 Fireball too can help as well. So just playing those back and forth and keeping your distance and always having an answer for them is really important. And don't burn your cooldowns too quickly. It makes a big difference.
Serana, do you have any thoughts from the Rogue perspective? Or go ahead, North. Sorry, yeah, go ahead. Good.
Fun fact. Don't use Rank 1 Fireball. Do not use Rank 1 Fireball. Use Rank 2 Fireball. Rank 2 Fireball actually has the longest cast to dot ratio. It's something that I don't see a lot of people use. It's not much longer of a cast time, but it actually, I believe it's 2 seconds to a 6-second debuff, which actually makes it, the best like time spent per dot achieved. So that's something you should do. But yeah, like he said, be quick on the blind, or be quick on the blizzard is probably the most important thing. That, and just use your cooldowns properly.
Okay. Serana, from your perspective, as a rogue, is there any, you guys do say it's an equal matchup, right? So it's so juicy to get both perspectives on it.
Yeah, it is actually an even matchup, especially if both people know what they're doing, and it's all about mind games. From my perspective, it's so crucial to gamble out something. So as a rogue, you obviously want to have the opener, unless you're on a big disadvantage if you have not. So you try to reset the fight somehow and get the opener on the mage. So he blows something out at the start, maybe a blink. You can try to gouge that, like cheap shot into gouge, and just gamble that he will hammer his button to blink right away if you open, if he knows you're there. You can try to trick him into blink the other way with your distract, maybe if you're out of fight,
that's next
or if
level
he's
shit.
out of combat. Then you obviously also have the tools like Skull of Impending Doom. Use it right on his sheep cast, maybe not before, because he can hear the sound effect and see if you have it equipped, because you don't have any glow on your offhand. It's pretty obvious if you have it equipped. Be most likely, like, you have to get some kind of advantage onto the mage. Some people even don't use crippling poison on mages because they go with a mind numbing. I'm a friend of crippling just to get some pressure on the mage. He will most likely try to kite you in any way, so you can play some mind games if he has some distance on you, and you break like the slow with your improved sprint. Run onto him, he will try to frost nova you, so you have to stop at certain point to force the nova and don't get caught into it maybe, and then go all out on him. Manage your cooldowns. You have to answer the block with some kind of opener gouge, or maybe the next blind. Like all that what those mages said, you have to play around and counter it. So if they come out of the block instantly, that's gives you an opportunity to maybe gouge them out of the block or something.
Okay.
So also, I think something that mages really should do more, and we didn't mention, is be aware, right? Like, go if you really want to be good against rogues, go make a rogue. Go level it to like 40, like get used to what the energy abilities look like. Ideally level it to 60, right? But get used to what they can do at what energy, right? Because if you're sitting in a block next to them, for instance, you should know, do I cancel this immediately? Do they have enough energy that doesn't matter, right? Like, what am I going to be sitting in? So that you can actually like work around what's in the mage, what the rogue is able to do, and work around his energy ticks. Also, I think an opener that really works, like a strategy that really works well, is be unpredictable in a rogue matchup, because a lot of rogues have an idea about what they're going to do. If you block, like, as much as it seems kind of weird, if you block some random shit that they're not expecting, and then you immediately come out and Skull and Eye of Smolder Web them, you've got a dot on yourself, you've got a dot on them, they have very little way of getting away from you, right? And so you have a 10-second window there to absolutely annihilate them. So like you can really, that's sort of what I try and rely on, is essentially, before I have Smolder Web, I would just be like, okay, block immediately when I see the rogue dump some energy, block immediately, Skull right out the gate, and just try and dump everything on the rogue and keep him locked down, right? He can't blind me for more than a second until the skull ticks. You could theoretically blind after like right after a tick. That might be effective, but still it's only 2 seconds of CC, and then I'm right on top of him again. So, be fast on that blizzard when you're willing to do that. But also, if you just use the Eye of Smolder Web, you don't have to be fast in the blizzard. You've got 20 seconds of a dot on them, unless they've got, poison resistance potions, or if they're a dwarf, obviously pay attention to that. Don't Smolder Web them. If they're a dwarf, then you'll look really stupid for not having another trinket on.
All right.
But I think it actually is very, like, if you're gadgeting out properly, I think that it actually is very mage favored. specifically in a duel situation, because you know that the rogue's there. You can blink immediately. You know that he's going to open. There's not going to be any downtime between you and the rogue. But like in the world, it can be very dangerous. So I think the most important thing is, if you know that a rogue's about, right? If you know that a rogue's about, be prepared, right? In the world, stay high health. Make sure your mana gems are made. Drink with an ice barrier. Don't let your don't get caught with your pants down in the world against a rogue, because that's going to be most of the time that you're losing against a rogue. Because more often than not, you can probably get away from them. They're one of the harder classes to escape, but you can probably reset and run away in the world.
Okay.
Yeah, what I also find really important, and from my experience, is daggers are the key to mages winning duels. I mean, with rank 14 swords, you have so much hemo damage that you make it work that way as well. But daggers is so much, because you have a little time window when you're actually facing the mage or when you're on him, and then that's where you have to get the damage done, and that is best with daggers.
Okay. Now I got another good question here. So what do you guys think is the best strategy come when you hit level 60 on classic, right? So knowing what we know right now, what would be the PvP strategy if let's say PvP is your priority? What are you doing as soon as you hit 60? And maybe we can start with Taka. We haven't heard from Taka in a little bit, or if you have any specific thoughts on this, Taka. Like you just hit 60, right? And PvP is your priority. What is going through your mind? What is your order of operations of things you want to get done?
Well, I see some questions pointed at me in the tube chat. Can I just answer?
Oh yeah, go ahead, go for it.
Okay,
Twitch is down in general, I think, or I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it's up now. Yeah, so people are asking if Protection Warrior is viable in PvP. Well, I mean, there's much more efficient classes if you're like spinning the flag and carrying flag in Warzone Gulch, etc. But I mean, in Outlook Valley, especially as an alliance, you can kind of, break the game if you have protection warriors with good gear, and you can kind of ignore all the towers and just tank and spank outside of the Drektar's room and kind of win AV real quick, right? But in general, I would not go protection warrior if you're planning on being serious in ranking, and but arms warrior is very viable, as someone asked, especially as horde. Two-handed fury is very good. And sorry, your question again. What I'm going to do first when I hit 60, right?
Yeah, that was very juicy stuff, man. I'm just wondering, what's going through your head as soon as you ding 60? If PvP is your priority and that's your number one thing you want to rank with the boys, like given what we know about classic, no honor system, what would your strategy be? What are you looking to do right away?
Well, first, I'm kind of trying to put together a crew with people that I can depend on, and I want to run through dungeons with these people to get to know each other, get the timing on CC and whatnot while we're gearing, and just in general have fun, right? And because these are the guys that know what I have, and as a warrior, I just try to get as much gear as possible. I see some questions regarding do I need PvE gear as a warrior? Well, I will say definitely, right? Because you, as a warrior, a lot of the times you're kind of the shield of the whole raid, right? So what you want to do is be aware of the opposing team, what their setup is, and kind of equip your gear according to your opponents, right? So if you have lots of casters, you probably need some high health gear so you can make sure that you survive. And if you have lots of melee, then you need some good armor, right? And I mean, you just have to kind of from situation to situation equip what you need, but you'll learn. And I mean, nobody has to be a master the first time you enter a BG, but I mean, if you make too many mistakes and not learn from them, you will probably hear from your healer that you're not doing what you're supposed to. So but once I hit 60, I want to grind out that gear as fast as possible to make sure that whatever is stopping me is not my gear, right? because the last thing
And
you want.
what does that
as a-
gear look like as a warrior too? You think so? It's dungeon gear, right? It's not pre-raid BIS necessarily, right? Because I mean, you're not going for min-maxing your Fury DPS, right? What would that look like to you?
I mean, like I said, HP pool is kind of important to get my engineering maxed out, to get all the trinkets from those spell reflecting things, and just get every tool I can get in my arsenal, as as people will be looking at me to. And if I don't have what I need, then I sure as hell can't really lead my team and kind of make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. So just have a big vocabulary, and just make sure that your gear is not the thing that's gimping you, because that's the worst thing as a warrior.
Okay.
But best in slot is not as important as just kind of learn. I would say that being a warrior, you can be a good killer, right? You can be an offensive striker in a football game, but as a warrior, I would much rather be a playmaker, than the striker and the scorer, because the playmaker, in the end, you can score a goal here and there, but in the end, you'll lose to the playmaker, because the playmaker will see what you're doing in one game, and the next game you're finished, right?
All right. Thanks for sharing that. T-Mugs, do you have any thoughts as far as you just hitting 60? What are you looking to do? Order of operations, kind of.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I was just gonna be farming previous from about 53 on, so I'll be starting to do dungeons and trying to get into groups from like 53 up. That's kind of my main goal there. By the time I hit 60 though, I'm gonna be looking to do WoW PvP right away. I'm probably gonna be going to Ongoro, trying to get as much gold as possible. I mean, it's just the fastest gold per hour you can possibly get early in the game. I always take. If you talk about second professions, I'm always going engineering skinning every server.
Engineering skinning. Oh, why is that?
Yeah, because Devil Sword, man, it's just the best gold per hour.
Mm.
And I don't want to rely on anyone else to skin for me, so I always take skinning every single time. Every single time. So that's the first place I'm going, is Crater. I'm gonna farm as much gold as possible, get my epic mount as quickly as possible. Try to get a couple freezing bands if I can. Mage is really important to have gold. That's something huge. A lot of BIS gear for Mage actually is like a lot of plus frost power greens. You really want to get a plus frost power wand pretty early. They're usually cheaper. You get like a plus 21, depending on the server. There might be a plus 23. You definitely want like you can get like plus 30 shoulders for spell power as mage. These are all going to be BOE items that you're going to want to buy. There's actually not that many items you need to actually farm from dungeons. It's mostly gold, and mages usually have to get consumables. So it's like, if you want to be a top DPS mage, it's really based off your consumables a lot. So you're going to want to have flasks, you're going to want to have runes, you're going to want to have mana pots, you're going to want to have great arcane elixirs, you're going to have fortitude, you're going to have all these different consumables in raid that can be a little bit pricey as the game goes on. So you want to build as much gold as possible, and you want to invest that gold really early. That's something people don't talk about a lot. Is raw gold in vanilla WoW isn't that important? Investing is important. Something I did really early in the server is I bought about close to 1,000 gold worth of mats for greater shadow pots, because I knew when BWL came out, those would go from being about 1 gold per greater shadow pot to being about 5 gold. And that's something I recently just did, dumped all that, and I think I have like 6.7, almost 7k gold in game right now. Wow. And that should last me the rest of the server. That's something really important, is why I go for as much gold as possible early, is to reinvest that gold and then to dump it later on, other than to reinvest the gold into herbs and things like that. Especially when something like AV comes out, it's a really good time to buy herbs as well. Especially things like Greater Silver Sage and Dreamfoil. The price drops really low. It might be like 5 gold a stack. Buy as much as you can. Like I think I have right now 400 Greater Arcane Elixirs in my bank. I'll never need to farm again for that. And then I almost have 7k raw gold right now. So my farming is pretty much done.
So gold is a real priority for you as a mage, because mages are so consumable heavy and in both PvE and PvP. So
yeah, hugely.
More so than other classes potentially. Okay.
Yeah, you want as much gold. I mean, even for warriors, dude, it's a huge vanilla. WoW has
Warriors
a
and
lot of
rogues
gold.
are
Yeah.
far more consumable dependent
Yeah.
than mages. Mages are still fairly like it's much more than healers, for instance. You know, like if you actually do want to compete if you want to be very
Yeah.
competitive, yeah, like mages do require a good amount of consumes. But I'd also caution people against some of the memes of this gold spending. 2 freezing bands. Is it BIS for PvE early on? Yes. How much buy for spell power? Is it really worth having 2 RNG items in your rings when you could have more stamina pieces? Something like a Blood of the Martyr alongside a freezing band. Probably not. So I would just caution people who do get on these trends like freezing bands are sick. Let's get 2 early on. I think that's actually a bad idea because you do lose a lot of stamina. You do lose a lot of intellect when you don't have a lot of stats early on. So just as a forewarning to other mages, I like after coming from K2 and coming to Northdale, no freezing bands dropped on K2, literally none. Like there were like 3 by the time I quit, and I quit like after week before rank 13, like after AV patch. So it was a good amount into the server, and each one went for 3,000 gold because for some reason on that core they just didn't drop. That being said, having 2 of them, I think, is far more of a meme than it's actually worth. It's a good item, but some people are like, oh, it's BIS forever. It's the best thing. Burtony had them. Yeah, like, they're good. They're good early on, but once you get stats, once you get things that you can actually rely on, once you have, like, stam on your rings and shit, and, like, good spell power that's not just plus frost damage, you're gonna, in my opinion, you're gonna want to go for those. Something like a Band of Force Concentration, Mind Tear bands, even Band of Sulphurous I would use over 2 freezing bands, right? Like Songstone of Ironforge, Blood of the Martyr, I'd use those things not over freezing band. I think freezing band is better, but like you have to think, like Team actually said, how am I going to spend my gold? Am I going to spend it in this 4 spell power and RNG very early on, or am I going to spend 500 gold buying something that's going to be 5 times as expensive later when it really matters?
Investing is huge. It's hugely important as anybody in the game, and that's something you learn from playing previous servers. Honestly, it's kind of hard to teach that because you learn when things are going to become valuable, and that even goes with it depends on the progression of the server as well too. Like another thing that's going to be really valuable later in the server, but it's a little bit later, and I don't think it's worth investing into would be like Elemental Earth. Like that's going to become hugely like it's going to be a great investment when AQ comes out. But do you really want to invest in the beginning of the server to AQ? I wouldn't. I'd probably invest in something that I know is going to be like it depends on like the Warlock mount. If you invest in those mats pretty early, when that comes out, you can make a lot of money doing that. There's a few different things.
In general, you have to see if the economy on classic servers with all newcomers will develop like that. I mean, now we are talking about stuff we know from fresh servers where everyone is like min-maxing, knows what's BIS and pre-BIS, and they have to rely on those items. And on classic, maybe the half of the server doesn't even know Devil Source like this.
Yeah, maybe they don't care about Devil Soul.
But the meta will eventually reach these servers for sure.
Eventually, yeah. But it is important. Like therefore, I think to stay on your toes. Things change. Being adaptable in every sense of the word, I think, is so important because like just noticing trends in what actually is valuable to people is going to help you in the long run in terms of like investing and getting that money. Just being aware of how much are greater Eternal Essences selling for? Can I flip them here? Right, like that's such like a free source of gold that it's really not worth ignoring it, I think.
All right.
Also, there's like on those private servers we have so many nerfs of farming stuff like Diamol Tribute stuff. Even the rogue boxes are nerfed, like what can drop in those high level boxes, right? So on classic you might not have those restrictions, so it's much easier for certain classes to reach a certain gold limit or farm stuff earlier. It's hard to say.
Now,
it is hard to say.
Serrano, while you're talking, what is your order of operations once you hit 60? Let's say that there is no honor system or something. What are you looking to do? Are you aligned with Takanashi, looking to build out that strong teamwork, looking to run dungeons together and just work on that as a priority? Are you just farming as much gold as possible? Take me through your thought process real quick, and we'll close on this, guys, because we hit the 2-hour mark here.
Yeah, so if there is no honor system, I will stack up on everything I will need for the ranking process. I'm pretty sure that I will roll with some friends on a certain server, so I don't have to find new ones there, let's say it like that way. I want to make sure that I'm starting with a base like this, that I have people to rely on for pre-made, maybe. And yeah, so as soon as I hit 60, I get the crucial items for the previous thingy to maybe raid MC as fast as possible. And then besides joining those dungeon groups for the previous, I will try to get all the consumes I need for the ranking process.
Okay. Getting consumes. Gotcha. All right, guys. Well,
And if I could just say one thing regarding PvP, which is my like, you know, close to heart, right?
yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, there's like 100 questions and 1,000 views on how to have the perfect pre-made and what to do regarding ranking and stuff like that. But in the end, it's you know, player against player, and it's you have to play these mind games. You have to be smart. You can have fun and do certain things, but if you're thinking that you'll automatically win because you have the YouTube guide perfect setup for a pre-made raid, then you're wrong, right? Because you can get beaten by scrubs if these guys are actually playing as a perfect team. They have a setup that'll destroy yours, and in the end, you just have to learn how to counter the things that you can't really counter, right? And as many people kind of reflected on here, you'll face other classes that are actually your nemesis, but always think that this is just a person sitting on another side of the screen, and always go into every duel thinking that you're smarter than the other guy, right? Thinking that you can outsmart whatever they're doing and read what they're doing instead of thinking that it's static, because it's not. It's dynamic. And just learn as you play. And most important thing that is true from vanilla up until today is that the more you know about your opponents, the easier you'll have winning against your enemies, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that. All right, guys, and I guess my final thoughts on this. You know, I've learned a lot just from these 2 hours with these guys. But one thing that, you know, the rank 14 grind always seemed not like the most fun thing ever to me. It seemed like it was pretty hardcore, and like maybe I didn't have the time for it. But one thing I find really awesome is that this grind brings people together and you make really good friendships. That to me seems really cool. You know, the fact that you're playing with people so often and it's so hard and it takes so much time, but it brings you guys closer together. So that, you know, I really might give it a shot, man. It might be, you know, I think that to me appeals to me more than anything else. And you know, I think I might give it a shot. So, anyways, guys, like, it was just such an honor, such a privilege having these guys here. Take 2 hours out of their day, out of their busy schedules. I really, really appreciate these guys.
Schedule of vanilla all day?
Yeah, my schedule of vanilla all day. But I really can't thank you guys enough, man. Like, I'm just, you know, getting started with the whole content thing, and just you guys being here really means a lot to me. So maybe if you guys could tell the people watching right now where to find you guys. I probably should have included that in the description, but I'm retarded. I didn't put it in there. So maybe we can start with Taka, man. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm from Sweden, right? But I live in Norway. So if you're anywhere in the northern Norway on a fucking island in the middle of the Atlantic and you want to hit a gym, then you know, let me know.
I'll let you, boy.
Other than that, you can find me on YouTube and Twitch. But if you go to my Twitch, you'll find all the other socials. That's twitch.tv/the Takanashi. Yeah, because there's lots of people ninja in my name, so I figured that I have to be the Takanashi.
The Takanashi. Right? Takanashi. Yeah. Okay, cool, man. Yeah. How about you, Serana? Are you? I know you said you're not streaming too much these days, but maybe Twitter or something like that. Do you have anything people can find you?
I think best thing is Discord. Maybe just hit me up in Discord. Same Nick Sorana. I think you will find me pretty easy. Otherwise, maybe you can go on Alliance site Northdale. I have a character there, mostly raid logging at the moment because of not that much time. But I think here and there you will find me online. And otherwise, Discord is the best option to catch me.
All right, T Mugs, where can people find you, man?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch. Just T-Mugsy.
You got the IG, huh?
Got it all.
You got the IG.
On every social media and everything, it's always just
Snapchat, Instagram, T Mugsy, man.
All of it.
Right
That's
there.
it. Simple.
Tinder.
Yeah, Tinder. There
Swipe
you go.
right, swipe right. All right.
Hitting everything. But, yeah, thank you for having me on today, by the way. It's been a lot of fun.
Yo, dude, it's always a pleasure, man. I learn so much every time I get to talk to you. Big North, you there, man? Where can people find you? You're probably streaming right now.
You can find me not on Instagram, unfortunately, not on Instagram, but on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter. I don't use my Twitter or YouTube. Eventually will, but just come at me on Twitch. Twitch.tv/NorthTheMage, all one word. I stream 12 hours a day from 2 p.m. EST to 2 a.m. EST, except for like Tuesdays. Tuesdays I kind of just do whatever, but every other day, 6 days a week, I'll stream 12 hours a day. So come by, say hello, tell me you think my opinions are shit, whatever you want. Just come chat, boys.
He's an opinionated guy, but you got to hand it to him, man. You got to respect the differences in opinions. At the end of the day, we all would buy each other beers and be homies in real life. So I really appreciate you guys, man. Like it really.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man, guys. So we're gonna end it here, guys. We've been streaming for 2 hours 10 minutes. I won't waste any more of your time here, but I hope this was somewhat valuable to you guys. We'll probably do these somewhat frequently, maybe every couple weeks, something like that. We'll feel it out based on the feedback and stuff. But thank you so much for listening and hanging out with us today. Big round of applause to these guys, and that's gonna be it. So I'm gonna end the stream here. Be sure to follow these guys, and I'll see you next time, guys. So have a good one.